Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the fanfiction guy. Back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What if Deku had the abilities of Dio? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Stupid Deku, muttered the blonde boy named Katsuki Bakugo as he continued to kick at the ground near Izuku Midoriya, who was often referred to as Deku. Stop, Kaken, I can't anymore, Izuku pleaded, shivering with tears streaming down his face. He knew that Katsuki wouldn't relent, and with school coming to an end, there were no teachers around to intervene. Izuku wanted to fight back with all his strength, but deep down, he never wished to hurt his childhood friend, hoping they could mend their fractured friendship. The weak Deku can't even handle a little pain. Katsuki yelled, laughter erupting from their classmates. Stop. No more, please, Izuku begged, his 12-year-old body unable to endure any further. Eventually, after what felt like hours, the torment from Katsuki ceased. Izuku sat in the corner of the classroom, disbelief washing over him as tears continued to fall. Why, he thought, his mind racing. The cycle of bullying felt endless. Why did this have to happen to me? Izuku's frustration swelled as he cried, sometimes letting out muffled screams amid his sobs. Was his last thought before he drifted off to sleep in the corner of the classroom. A few hours later, Izuku finally awoke from his restless slumber. He took a moment to gather his thoughts and glanced out the window. Oh no, he thought, dismayed to see that it was dark outside. Checking his watch, he saw it was 6:30 p.m. Mom's going to be mad, he muttered under his breath. He ran as fast as his 12-year-old legs could carry him. Fortunately, his home was just a few blocks away from school. As soon as he opened the door to their apartment, he was greeted by an upset and disappointed Inko. Izuku Midoriya, she called out, her tone sharp. Oh no, he thought. Where have you been? This is the 5th time this week. Sorry, was all Izuku could manage, not wanting to reveal the truth about his childhood friend. Sorry? Look at all your bruises. Inko exclaimed, concern etched on her face. Izuku, I love you, but I can't stand this anymore. Izuku was left speechless. When will you tell me the truth? Mom, What? She interrupted. Don't use the I just got in a fight excuse again. Izuku hesitated. It's Katsuki, he finally admitted. What? Katsuki? What about him? She bullies me. Just then, Inko's phone rang, interrupting the conversation. 1 second, honey, she said, stepping away to answer the call. On the phone. Inko. Yes, Inko Midoriya here. Mitsuki. Inko. What did Izuku do to my son? Inko. Excuse me, what? Mitsuki. He came home with bruises. Inko. What? Did he get into a fight? Mitsuki. Don't play dumb. He said Izuku beat him up. Inko. What? Don't go blaming Katsuki's mistakes on my son. Mitsuki shouted, her voice echoing with frustration. Inko responded calmly, let us resolve this like proper women. Mitsuki retorted, what? Inko continued, I'll start. Izuku comes home from school every day with bruises and scratches. Mitsuki snapped back. My son came home with bruises today. Both mothers exchanged glances, realizing the connection. Did your son get into a fight with mine? They asked in unison. Inko shook her head. No, that's not possible. Izuku has been getting bruises every day since kindergarten. Mitsuki sighed, I guess. Inko cheerfully added, okay, bye. Mitsuki was about to respond when Inko hung up the phone. At the Bakugo household. Katsuki, get your lazy self over here. Mitsuki yelled, her tone a mix of love and exasperation. What old hag? Katsuki shouted back as he bounded down the stairs. You can't even defend yourself from a few thugs. Mitsuki scolded her son. The neighbors could hear the commotion from the Bakugo household. Back to the Midoriya household. Inko placed her phone down and turned to Izuku. Anyway, Izuku, what were you saying? Oh, never mind, it's nothing, Izuku replied, avoiding her gaze. Inko sighed, sensing her son's reluctance to share but decided not to press him. Time skipped to Izuku's room. No, Izuku doesn't have his abilities yet. Good grief, Izuku muttered under his breath. He lay back, contemplating what to do next. After a moment, he grabbed his hoodie and knife holsters and jumped out of his window. It was 11 p.m., and he knew everyone in his neighborhood should be asleep. As he walked through the empty streets, he finally arrived at his spot, the forest. He had been coming here since he was 7 and had even built his own treehouse. Flashback. Huh, Deku, that's what you get. Young Katsuki exclaimed, mini explosions erupting from his hands. This was just one of the many times Izuku faced bullying after kindergarten. Hey! Katsuki kicked Izuku's unconscious body. Oh, a nerd, he shouted again, kicking him once more. When Izuku didn't move, Katsuki's friends began to flee, sensing something was wrong. Katsuki, panicking at the thought of having gone too far, ran away, fearing he could never become the #1 hero. Time skip a few hours. Izuku slowly opened his eyes, feeling bruised all over and realizing hours had passed since school ended. He wandered, trying to get home to avoid worrying his mother. Dazed from the pain, he unwittingly ventured into the forest near their apartment complex. After a while, he realized, where am I? He pressed deeper into the woods, searching for a place to rest, unsure of how to return home. Eventually, he stumbled upon a hidden spot, shielded by trees, featuring a beautiful waterfall and diverse plants. Amazed, he took a few steps to explore before he collapsed from exhaustion. Back to the normal timeline. Izuku sat on a stone in his hidden paradise, letting out a sigh before getting to work. He retrieved a mannequin with Katsuki's face from a hollow tree and placed it in front of him. Stepping back a few meters, he took a stance. He reached for his knives, throwing them at the mannequin with precision. For 30 seconds, he unleashed a flurry of knives, stopping only when he was exhausted. A total of 60 knives were embedded in the dummy, 2 in the head, 20 in the torso, 3 in the heart, and 15 in each leg. 5 knives missed entirely. After retrieving the knives, he placed them back in his holsters. Sitting on the ground, he took a moment to catch his breath. After a while, he stood up and began to enjoy the scenery. Even after exploring this hidden paradise over 100 times, it never ceased to fascinate him. As he walked, he tripped over a rock and fell. He quickly got up only to realize an arrow had struck his left shoulder. What is this? Izuku shouted, unsure whether to pull it out, fearing it would bleed more. He hesitated, not wanting to go to the hospital and face his mother's wrath. The arrow fell to the ground and he pulled it out. What? He murmured, astonished. Not bleeding? To his surprise, the wound closed up within seconds. Is this a quirk? He wondered aloud. After pondering for a moment, he concluded, does the arrow give quirks? He picked up the arrow and returned to his main spot in the hidden paradise, placing it in the hollow tree alongside the mannequin. Izuku then resumed his training session, which had been interrupted by the arrow. He did push-ups, ran, and practiced more with his knives. As the sun finally rose, he hurried home, hoping his mother wouldn't find out about his late-night activities. Luckily, it was Saturday, so he could sleep in. Chapter end. Beep beep beep. The sound of Izuku's alarm clock went off, and in a moment of panic, he threw a knife at it, silencing it instantly. Oh no, he realized, staring at the broken clock. He couldn't let his mother find out. If she discovered the shattered alarm clock, she'd know it was stabbed. If she figured out it was from a knife, she'd search his room. If she found his knife holsters, Izuku would have no choice but to tell the truth if they were discovered. At least the alarm clock doesn't have any signs of damage, thought Izuku. Wait, what? Screamed his internal voice. I thought it got stabbed by my knives. Izuku began searching the alarm clock for any signs of damage, but there were none. I guess it was just in my head, the boy concluded. He walked to his door to get some breakfast until he noticed his trash can. What the heck? Izuku muttered under his breath. He reached into the trash can and pulled out the alarm clock, a knife embedded in it. How do I have 2 alarm clocks? Better yet, when did I get 2 alarm clocks? The boy stood there, bewildered. He decided not to question it. It may be a quirk that neutralizes a person's misfortune, was the bizarre conclusion Izuku Midoriya came to. He put the incident aside and went to the kitchen for breakfast. To his surprise, his mother wasn't there. He didn't think much of it, she may have gone to get groceries. He grabbed a box of almighty cereal, poured some milk into a bowl, and continued with his day. Time skipped to the last day of middle school. Izuku is now 14 by the way. We see Izuku running as fast as he can to school. I'm late, I'm late, I'm late, was all Izuku Midoriya could think of. It was currently 7:55, and his class started at 8. It's the last day of school, and it's the only time I can choose my career, thought the human broccoli. It had been a month since his encounter with the arrow, and nothing too bizarre had happened yet. Izuku made it to the school gates just as the clock struck 8. Iya! Izuku internally screamed. He was at school, sure, but he wasn't in class. I'm late, I'm late, I'm late. I'm Elidash. All of a sudden, he found himself in his seat in class. Everyone stared at him, wondering why he yelled the word 8. A blonde student started laughing. Deku, has being quirkless finally caught up to you? Said the blonde. Haha. The laughter of the entire class filled the room. However, Izuku ignored the laughter and was too busy pondering how he had seemingly teleported. There was also another similar unexplainable incident. Flashback. Gimme your money, kid, said a thug to the greenette. Izuku stood there in shock, realizing he was in the bad part of town. All he wanted was to find a shop that sold limited edition All Might figurines. And no, replied the greenette, paralyzed in fear. So be it, said the thug. The thug proceeded to threaten him. However, Izuku refused to give in and even swung a few punches back, which didn't really do much. Oh, you're tough, kid. Tell you what, if you can survive this, then you get to live, said the thug, pulling out a weapon. But that's impossible, stammered the green bean. Exactly, replied the thug. Bang 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 bang. Wait, what? The thug stood there in disbelief. Izuku slowly opened his eyes, and to his surprise, no bullets had hit him. He patted himself down, checking for any injuries. He scanned his surroundings for an explanation of how he survived. He noticed the thug had passed out from shock. Izuku didn't question it and decided to search the man for anything useful. He found a mask and thought it would make a good decoration for his wall. He wanted to try it out just for fun. He placed it on his face, and suddenly, spikes shot out from the mask. Izuku fell to the ground, and the mask rolled away. Unnoticed, ice began to form around his body, encasing him. But for Izuku, he woke up back in his bed, with no trace of the mugging. His wounds and bruises had vanished, and the only strange thing was the stone mask that hung perfectly on his wall. End of flashback. Izuku stopped thinking about the two bizarre events and decided to listen to his teacher talk about proving why triangles are triangles. Now it was the last PRD, and Izuku Midoriya sat in his seat, eagerly waiting for school to finish. As the teacher walked in, he announced, "All right, class, today you will be filling out these forms on what you want your career to be." The class sank into a depressing mood. Just kidding. I know you all want to be heroes. Yeah, the class responded, and everyone used their quirks. Izuku Midoriya just sat there, hoping the teacher wouldn't call his name and reveal the school he wanted to attend. Oh, said the teacher. Oh no, don't pick me, thought Midoriya. Katsuki Bakugo. Phew, it's not me, the green bean relaxed at the thought. You wanted to go to UA, right? Hell yeah, I'm the only one good enough in this place for you, said the certain blonde. The class booed at the statement. Oh no, he's going to call me, thought Izuku. Midoriya, you wanted to go to UA too, right? Why? Izuku sighed. The class laughed at the thought that the quirkless nobody wanted to attend one of the most prestigious schools in Japan. Izuku ignored the mockery of the entire class. However, he couldn't ignore Katsuki's criticism. The Deku wants to go to you, said the blonde in a mocking tone. Shut up, Kaken, Izuku muttered under his breath. Ha? Was Katsuki's chosen reply. Shut it, Kaken. Katsuki snickered and threw an explosion toward Izuku Midoriya, but, sudden, Izuku Midoriya was nowhere to be seen. The class's fear dissipated, and Katsuki relaxed a bit. Someone with a heat quirk began melting the ice off the Pomeranian. With Izuku. "Oh my gosh, I was so cool," thought Izuku as he hid behind the classroom door, making his way through the hallway to the stairs. Why? Izuku couldn't help but shout as he walked out of the school gates on his way home. As he walked, he didn't notice the streaks of blonde hair that had appeared in his light green locks. Finally, Izuku Midoriya arrived home to be greeted by his mother. "Hi, honey. You're home early today. How was school?" Inko Midoriya asked, a hint of suspicion in her voice. "Oh, it's nothing. The teacher just let us out early," replied the green bean. "Oh, okay," Inko said, deciding not to pry into her son's life. Izuku hurried past his mother and dashed straight to his room. Once there, he quickly grabbed his knife holsters and ran to the forest to test the limits of his newfound power. Now began the 10 months of training that would help Izuku Midoriya reach the top and become one of the greatest heroes. He muttered while sitting on a rock, deep in thought. "What is my ability? Teleportation? It's possible. How do I activate it? Do I need hand signs? Does it only activate when I'm in danger?" Izuku continued mumbling to himself until he realized, why not just try? He face-bombed, realizing he had been so focused on figuring out his ability that he hadn't even attempted to use it. He made a checklist of the abilities he had experienced so far. Yellow humanoid figure. Teleportation. He decided to start with his ice ability, thinking it might be the easiest. He attempted to freeze a small pebble, trying various stances in hopes that the ability would activate. After exhausting all the stances he could think of, he focused on ice and everything related to cold. Still nothing, he thought with a sigh. Taking a deep breath, he suddenly exclaimed, "What?" realizing his nose had turned frozen. Why does it happen at the most unexpected times? He pulled out his battery-powered heater and placed it on his nose, always prepared. "Well, at least I froze something," Izuku said, marking that skill as needing more practice. Yellow humanoid figure. Teleportation. "Alright, now for this yellow figure," he said, squatting on a stone to meditate and focusing on the yellow energy he had felt during his outburst in class. He began to be enveloped in a yellow aura. It's not as bright as before, but it will have to do," he said with an accomplished expression. "Wait, where's the yellow figure? Do I need to attack something?" he wondered. He approached a dummy and, with a swift motion, struck it. The mannequin had a yellow hand imprinted on its belly. "Oh, it's not a man, but it looks like its arm," he said. "I'll take that as a win." He colored a box on his checklist. Yellow humanoid figure. Teleportation. Izuku scrunched his face in concentration, looking as if he were struggling with a difficult task. He tried for 3 hours straight, knowing that teleportation would be incredibly useful for him. Sigh, "It's never going to happen," he said, feeling defeated. What's the most useless ability in the world? Right then, the most powerful ability that Izuku Midoriya possessed finally awakened. He looked around to see everything frozen in place, even the birds suspended in midair. What? Time resumed. The greenette stood there, confused. Confusion turned to realization, realization to shock, and shock to amazement. "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Is it possible that I froze time?" He decided to test it again, but before he could, he passed out. 8 hours later, Izuku woke up from his slumber, undisturbed until he received a text from his mom. He checked his phone, having nothing else to do. On the phone. Inko, "Honey, when are you coming back from your friend's house?" Izuku, "Oh, that's right, I told her I was at a friend's house." Izuku, "I'm coming back by lunch." Inko, "Okay, hun." Off the phone. "I'll spend the next few hours figuring out what I can do with my ability and if I really can stop time or not." Izuku then spent the next few hours conducting various tests on his ability. He made a list of what his time-stopping ability could do. Allows me to throw projectiles. Walk, run faster and jump higher. Uses stamina as fuel to stop time. The longer I use it, the more stamina I expend. I must wait until my stamina is ready for another time stop, or I will pass out. Anything I do while time is stopped will only take effect when time resumes, e.g., hitting a tree in time stop will only leave a dent after time resumes. I can move objects during time stop. When I stop time, to others, I appear to teleport when I move to another location after time resumes. Izuku was satisfied with his list and decided to head home. Izuku's ability log. It now takes him 2.5 hours to activate his time stop, and it only lasts for 1 second. Izuku was currently in his hidden paradise, training his ability and physical strength. We find him in the 3rd month of training before the entrance exams for UA. Izuku passed out for the 10th time that day as he tried to increase his stamina. As we wait for Izuku to wake up again, let's talk about how he has improved his abilities. Izuku has managed to shorten the activation time for his time stop ability. It now takes 2 hours to activate. He has also become more efficient with his ice manipulation. He can freeze anything completely as long as it is smaller than his arm, and he can now summon his stand, the world, with ease. He has the ability to choose whether to bring out its entire body or just certain limbs. Izuku's stomach growls. "Oh, I'm hungry again," he says, not realizing it has been 6 hours since he last ate. He decides to head home, hoping there is some leftover katsudon from last night's dinner. As he walks a few blocks away from his apartment with his headset on, he suddenly catches a whiff of smoke in the air. Alarmed, he sprints toward his home, reaching it in mere seconds. To his shock, he sees that the right wing of the apartment complex is engulfed in flames. Relief washes over him when he remembers that he lives in the left wing, but that relief quickly turns to worry as he realizes all his belongings are still inside. He rushes to gather his essentials before the fire spreads. Izuku dashes to his apartment, thankful that his mother, Inko, is away on a business trip. He grabs 2 suitcases from the storage room, one for his mother's things and one for his own. He also retrieves the emergency money and some passports hidden behind the television. Seeing that the door is beginning to catch fire, Izuku makes a quick decision and jumps out of the window. He lands on the ground with only a few bruises and scratches. In a panic, he calls his mother to inform her of the incident. "Hello, Mrs. Midoriya here, how may I help you?" Inko answers. "Hey Mom," Izuku replies, his voice shaky. "Izuku, honey, stop stalling and tell me what's wrong." "Our apartment burned down," he says quickly. "Oh no!" Inko gasps. Suddenly, Izuku hears a thud on the other end of the line, followed by a series of loud noises. His heart races as he calls out, "Mom! Mom!" For 30 long minutes, he calls out for her, but only silence answers. Tears well up in his eyes as he fears the worst, feeling utterly alone and lost. Izuku wanders the streets, using the world to carry the suitcases until evening falls. He finds an alley to rest for the night, placing the suitcases next to a dumpster and covering them with newspapers. The next day, he wakes up to a rat nibbling at his cheek. He shoos it away and begins to plan his day. "I'll look through what I have right now, even a paperclip might be useful," he thinks. He searches through the suitcases, starting with his own. He finds clothes, some money, and his knives. When he checks his mother's suitcase, he sees her clothes and some money, but notices something is missing. Where are the passports? He wonders, frantically searching but finding nothing. In his frustration, he decides to read a book he found in his mother's suitcase. The title reads, "The Heaven Plan," and he jokes to himself, "Midoriya? Is this my dad? What kind of nonsense is this?" he mutters, putting the book back and retreating to his hidden spot. Hours pass, and news reports indicate that there were 9 deaths, 4 in critical condition, and 26 injured in the fire. Izuku feels detached from the tragedy, focused solely on whether his mother is safe. He resolves that if she doesn't return in 3 months, he will consider her truly gone. To keep himself occupied, he begins training. He takes out a mannequin and uses the world to practice his attacks, throwing in some knives for good measure. After an hour, he shifts to training his ice abilities. He approaches a pond connected to a waterfall, places his hand on the water, and begins to freeze it. He manages to create a circle of ice 12 meters in diameter, pushing the limits of his powers. After creating several circles of ice, he decides to practice freezing solid objects, starting with a twig and gradually increasing the size. Exhausted but determined, he continues his training, focusing on his time-stopping ability. He stands still for 2 hours until he finally manages to stop time, though it only lasts a moment before he collapses from exhaustion. I need to train more if holding time for just a second is this tiring, he says to himself, surprised by the effort it takes, as he had only focused on shortening the startup time of his ability over the past 3 months. As night falls, Izuku prepares to sleep, but the next morning he wakes up feeling fatigued and immediately hit by a wave of hunger. Realizing he hasn't eaten anything the previous day, he recalls a bakery nearby. Determined, he heads to the bakery, planning to take food without spending any money. He makes a plan for the perfect bread heist. He could not run due to fatigue, nor could he use his time stop since he would have already passed out from hunger before it could activate. Eventually, he comes up with a solution that is guaranteed to work 100%. Izuku sits on a bench beside the bakery and uses his stand, the world, to fetch bread for him. The world enters the shop, and everyone stares at the yellow humanoid figure as it grabs 2 loaves of bread. Meanwhile, the store manager swings a baguette at the yellow figure, but it does no harm to Izuku's stand. The world then walks out of the bakery and hands the bread to Izuku, who strolls away, enjoying his snack as if nothing unusual had happened. It has now been 3 months since Izuku Midoriya's apartment complex burned down, and 4 months until the entrance exams for UA. He has started to accept the possibility that his mother may have died, and his personality has become more confident and daring. He has also grown more cunning and less friendly, gaining muscle in the process. A newspaper flew and hit Izuku's face while he was taking a stroll through the park. "What is this?" the greenette asks himself. He grabs the paper and reads it. Written on the paper is, "Fortune teller in town for free. Only available for a week. Located at Street. Only open during 12 o'clock midnight." Izuku hums in thought. "I suppose I'll try it. I have nothing better to do," he says. Time skip. Izuku arrives at the address written on the piece of paper. He knocks on the door. After a few seconds, the door opens, and he is greeted by an old woman. "Hello there, young man," the woman says in a somewhat eerie tone. "Oh, hi," replies Izuku. "If you're looking for the fortune teller, why don't you come in?" she suggests. "Oh, okay," he responds, his tone laced with suspicion. "Sit here," she says, gesturing to a chair. Izuku sits down, and the woman takes a seat across from him, separated by a table with a glass ball on top. She begins to wave her hand over the ball. "My boy," she says, "that you will surely rule the world," she continues. Izuku is confused but nods, not wanting to disturb whatever she is doing. "Pick a card," she says, spreading out tarot cards on the table. Izuku picks a card, muttering, "The world." "Oh ho ho, it simply means that this is the destiny fate has chosen for you. You have power that is yours, and anything you do with it shall lead to your desired outcome. You are the emperor of this world," she exclaims. Before Izuku can respond, the woman disappears into thin air, and he finds himself back in the park, holding the tarot card in his hand. Izuku hums as he walks through the empty, silent streets. "The world, huh?" he muses. "It seems that she was right," he says with a grin. "This ability is mine. Truly mine," he declares. "My ability shall rule the world. Therefore," Izuku continues, "when I am in need, I will call out to you. Ze Warudo," he shouts, filled with determination. The entire world seemed to freeze for a brief moment. In that instant, Izuku felt a rush of shock as he unintentionally stopped time. Though it was unexpected, the activation was seamless. Time resumes. Izuku's stamina waned, but not as drastically as before, thanks to his rigorous training. "It happened," Izuku murmured, still in disbelief. "I must achieve it again. I must overcome my weaknesses. I will train harder than ever. I will push my limits. With this, I will truly become the No.1 hero. Not just in Japan, but for the entire globe." With a newfound confidence, Izuku walked toward his hidden sanctuary, a cocky smile on his face. As he walked, he muttered to himself, "This shall be the last time anyone sees me as weak." A lot of time has passed, and now only a week remained until the UA entrance exams. 103, Izuku counted as he did push-ups. He stood up and walked toward his training dummy, only to collapse a few inches away from it. Izuku Midoriya hadn't slept in 4 days, dedicating himself to training harder than ever with the entrance exams looming. Izuku's ability log. His startup time for his time-stop ability had been drastically reduced to 5 seconds. He could now freeze structures 10 times larger than himself. Izuku had also learned to perform a time skip, which, while requiring considerable stamina, was less taxing than a standard time stop since he remained inactive during the skip. Finally, after 10 hours of sleep, Izuku woke up, feeling the effects of time distortion. He decided to take a break from training and head to the park. He grabbed a hoodie and a book from his mother's suitcase titled, The Heaven Plan. As he walked, he began to read. Heaven is achieved by being in the right state of mind. Right state of mind? Did this book just call me crazy? Thought the greenette. And you would have to eliminate 36 individuals who have sinned. Wait, eliminate? Izuku thought, continuing to read. We call these individuals sinners. Once you have eliminated the 36th sinner, place my bone on the body. Bone? Where do I find your bone? Izuku wondered internally. My bone is found in a compartment on the next page. I should really stop interrupting myself, he thought, feeling a bit embarrassed. After placing the bone on the body of the 36th sinner, the item that sprouts from the body of the 13th sinner must be combined with your ability after you have carved the 14 phrases on your body. These phrases are Spiral Staircase, Rhinoceros Beetle, Desolation Row, Fig Tart, Rhinoceros Beetle, Via Dolorosa, Rhinoceros Beetle, Singularity Point, Giotto Angel, Hydrangea, Rhinoceros Beetle, Singularity Point, Secret Emperor. After inscribing these phrases and obtaining the item from the 13th sinner's body, you must have the courage to momentarily harm yourself. After that, you will be reborn into something much more powerful than you are right now. Holy moly, that's a lot to do, thought Izuku. But if that's what it takes for power, then so be it. Unbeknownst to him, Izuku had taken a wrong turn while reading and ended up in a rough part of town. Suddenly, thugs surrounded him, forming a tight circle. Izuku noticed the thugs and instinctively got into a fighting stance. "Get ready, kid," said one thug. "Yeah," another thug began, but was cut off by a sudden chill in the air. In the split second that the thugs were talking, Izuku froze the ground around him, immobilizing 13 of them. Without any time to react, they were struck by a yellow humanoid figure. "Ho-ho, useless!" Izuku shouted triumphantly. "Muda muda 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 muda," echoed a voice as the figure knocked out the last thug. Izuku was unharmed and was about to leave when he noticed there were 36 thugs in total. Quickly, he decided to follow the book's instructions, knowing he might not have another chance to confront 36 sinners. He retrieved the bone from the book and placed it on the body of the 36th sinner. Suddenly, plants began to sprout from the bodies of the sinners. Izuku sensed a change and rushed to the 13th sinner, where he discovered a green baby. He picked up the baby and hurried back to his hidden paradise. Once there, he quickly made a nest of twigs and leaves, placing the baby gently inside. Izuku paced around his sanctuary, worrying about 2 things: the entrance exam starting in 5 days and how to care for the baby. The green baby giggled at Izuku's anxious movements, easing some of his stress. As he calmed down, Izuku realized he hadn't taken a good look at the baby. He hummed, shrugging off the baby's unusual appearance. "How will I keep the baby safe?" he pondered. Hours passed, and Izuku finally came up with a solution. "I will fuse with the baby," he declared. "The baby will be kept safe inside me until I build up the courage to face my trial," he said with a grin. Izuku carefully held the baby in his hands and, unexpectedly, pushed the baby into himself. To his relief, the fusion was seamless. He summoned his ability to check for any differences but found none. With a grin, Izuku resumed training his powers and physical strength for the upcoming entrance exams. Time skip to the UA entrance exams. Izuku was sprinting toward the gates of UA, nearly late, using his time skip ability to arrive on time. As he ran, let's take a moment to reflect on his progress. His time stop startup time has been reduced to 3 seconds, and his time stop now lasts for 3 seconds. He can also time skip without issues. However, he can only perform 4 consecutive time skips before he becomes exhausted. If he takes a brief break after a time skip, his counter resets. For example, if Izuku time skips immediately after a previous time skip, he can do this 4 times before passing out. But if he takes a 10 to 15 second break after a time skip, he can continue to time skip as much as he wants. Additionally, Izuku can now freeze objects 12 times his size. Izuku arrives at the gate of U. 10 more minutes, he shouted, racing to the exam room at speeds that could rival Ida. He reaches the room just as Present Mic begins to speak. Hello, little listeners. Welcome to the UA entrance exam. Are you ready? Present Mic's voice boomed, amplified by his quirk. The crowd of students sat in silence. Geez, tough crowd, Present Mic remarked, noting the eerie quiet. He proceeded to explain the exam's rules, detailing the robots and the points awarded for defeating them. Just as he was about to mention the last robot, a blue-haired boy raised his hand. Yes, little listener? Present Mic asked. Sir, this pamphlet states there are 4 robots, but you've only mentioned 3. Is this an oversight by UA? If so, it reflects poorly on the school's reputation, the blue-haired boy asserted. Present Mic internally sighed, feeling the weight of interruptions. Ho ho, Izuku said in a chilling tone, a sense of intensity radiating from him. Suddenly, everyone froze in fear, even the teachers. You dare interrupt Present Mic while he was about to discuss the 0-pointer? Izuku's voice was now eerily calm. The blue-haired boy could only stand there, paralyzed by fear. Izuku quickly time-skipped to the boy's desk, causing those nearby to gasp and move away. You are the brother of Ingenium, correct? Izuku asked, his tone still unsettling. The boy nodded, his eyes wide. If I'm not mistaken, you are Ida Tenya, Izuku continued. Ida confirmed with another nod. Let me ask you a question. Izuku said, his voice low. Did you use your brain before asking your question? Izuku challenged. Why yes. Ida began, but Izuku cut him off. Did I allow you to speak? He said, his presence growing more intimidating. The tension in the room escalated, and some students began to sweat profusely, while others fainted. Ida shivered, shaking his head in response. It's good to know you can read signs, Izuku remarked. You may now speak. Ida opened his mouth but found himself unable to respond. Izuku prompted, waiting for an answer. Silence filled the air. Tish, Izuku clicked his tongue in annoyance. If you cannot answer, I will provide one. He released more of his intimidating aura, causing even more students to faint. If the 3-pointer gives 3 points, the 2-pointer gives 2 points, and the 1-pointer gives 1 point, then the 0-pointer should give 0 points. Am I wrong? Izuku stated. No, came a voice from behind him. Oh, you can talk, Izuku replied, intrigued. Yes, the voice confirmed. Izuku clapped slowly, a menacing smile spreading across his face. I applaud you, you are the first to withstand this level of pressure. May I know your name? Stem. Giorno Giovanna, and I have a dream I must fulfill, said the blonde with a distinctive hairstyle. Izuku grinned menacingly, and the tension in the room remained palpable. Giorno Giovanna, you say? Izuku mused. I'm intrigued by you. Make sure to pass the exam, he added, his glare intense. Giorno felt a bead of sweat trickle down his forehead. Izuku then time-skipped back to his seat, deactivating his intimidating presence. He signaled for Present Mic to continue. Present Mic took the hint, stuttering, WBL, guys, follow MET to ground B beta. Time skip to ground beta. Izuku and the other participants stood in front of the gate of ground beta, waiting for the test to start. He noticed a short brunette standing nervously, twiddling her thumbs and muttering to herself. What is she doing? Izuku thought. If she fails, she fails. Her inability to focus is not my problem. The gates opened, and Izuku dashed forward, using his quirk to punch and kick the robots while freezing and shattering the metallic figures. Izuku quickly accumulated 24 points, while the other participants complained that he was cheating. What are you waiting for? There are no countdowns in real battles. Present Mike yelled through the speakers. The other participants began running into the city. Yar days, Izuku muttered under his breath. Now I have to worry about people stealing my robots, he said, continuing to shatter robots while using his quirk to fend off others approaching from behind. An hour had passed since the exam started, with 1 hour remaining until it ended. Izuku had already accumulated 64 points. I'm tired, I think I'll take a break, Izuku said as he settled onto one of the benches in the mock city. Barely a minute had passed when the ground began to tremble. An earthquake? Izuku thought, but his musings were cut short as the robotic arm of the zero-pointer smashed down on the building above him. Reacting quickly, Izuku used his ability to leap to a nearby tree, hoping it would shield him from the falling debris. Fortunately, he emerged with just a few minor scratches. This exam is not safe at all. Izuku screamed internally, but then a smirk crossed his face. He approached the zero-pointer, while onlookers fled in panic, casting bewildered glances at him. Hinjaku! Izuku shouted at the robot, drawing confused looks from the teachers in the observation room. One by one, he froze the wheels of the robot, rendering it immobile. Once finished, he used his ability to propel himself upward, landing on the zero-pointer's head. Izuku yelled as he and his ability struck the robot's head with force. Why? He screamed, arching his back dramatically. All the participants and teachers watched in shock at the display of power from the green-haired boy. And that's all for the exam, folks. Please head to Recovery Girl to treat your wounds. Present Mike announced through the speakers. Izuku jumped down from the flattened head of the robot, using his ability to cushion his fall, creating a small crater in the ground. Everyone stared at him in a mix of fear and awe. Yar days, now people see me as a threat, Izuku said loudly enough for those around him to hear. The tension in the crowd heightened. A voice called out from the crowd. Izuku scanned the faces, searching for the source. Do you have the same ability as me? The person asked as he stepped forward. Giorno Giovanna, glad to see you again, Izuku replied. Answer my question, Giorno said firmly. Izuku's expression turned serious. I have many abilities, which one are you referring to? This, Giorno said, gesturing to the figure behind him. Ho, Izuku chuckled. The world, he shouted as his stand appeared behind him. It seems our abilities are similar. What did you name yours? Izuku asked. Golden experience, Giorno replied. And this is called a stand, he continued, gesturing to his own. A stand? Izuku asked, intrigued. Yes, a stand is a manifestation of one's fighting spirit, and each stand has a unique ability, Giorno explained. I have 2 other questions, Izuku said. Shoot, Giorno replied. What is your stand's ability? Izuku inquired. It can create life, I can make plants and animals, but I can't control their actions. I can also heal myself or others. What about you? Giorno answered. I'm the one. Asking questions here, but no one will ever know the true ability of the world, Izuku said cryptically. Next question. Who told you about these stands? Izuku asked as his final inquiry. A man named Jotaro Kujo, Giorno replied. Get out of ground beta. Present Mike shouted through the speakers. It's been 12 minutes since the exam ended, and other participants are still using this mock city, he continued. Yodiman loud. Izuku shouted, glaring at one of the drones connected to the observation room. Eek! Present Mike exclaimed from inside the observation room. 1 week later, Izuku checked the mailbox near the forest. Instead of using a knife to open the mail like a normal person, he used his ability to rip the envelope open. A disc fell to the ground, projecting All Might's image. Ew, Izuku said immediately upon seeing All Might's face. Young Midoriya, you have passed the exam with 90 points, the projected All Might announced. 90? Didn't I get 64? Izuku thought. You may be wondering how you got 90 points, All Might continued. You originally had 64 points. However, there was a secret point system in the exam called rescue points, which you earn by rescuing people. Rescue points? But I didn't rescue anyone, Izuku pondered. He summoned his stand, the world. Did you rescue anyone? Izuku asked. Muda, the world responded. Yes, I did. They really needed help, Izuku confirmed. Okay, he said. May I also add, you got first place in the entrance exam, almost beating my record of 92 points. All Might announced. All Might was momentarily distracted as the cameraman whispered something in his ear. Excuse me, what? All Might whispered back. We just found out that Izuku Midoriya rescued 5 more students, but the teachers missed them since they were either under a tree or in a dark place, the cameraman explained. All Might sweat dropped. Cough, cough, the projected All Might cleared his throat. We seem to have made a mistake. You actually have a total of 95 points, beating my record by 3 points, All Might admitted, lowering his head in embarrassment. A large grin spread across Izuku's face, revealing his excitement. Ho ho, he laughed, but not like Santa Claus. The projection ended, and Izuku went to bed, as it was already late. The following week, Izuku walked through the gates of UA, wearing the school's uniform. Whispers and murmurs filled the air as he searched for his class, Class 1A. Hey, isn't that the kid who beat All Might's record? Then you better not mess with him. I heard the teachers were scared of him. I was in the same exam room as him, and he made the entire class freeze in fear. These were the murmurs circulating around him. Eventually, Izuku arrived at the door of Class 1A. He opened the door to find students running around and throwing paper ball, while Ida Tenya scolded Katsuki Bakugo for putting his feet on his desk. When the entire class noticed him, they all sat down and froze in place. Even Katsuki Bakugo removed his feet from his desk and dropped his head in fear and shame. Izuku narrowed his eyes and grinned mischievously. The class tensed up even more. Eraserhead woke from his slumber inside his sleeping bag, sensing the sheer tension in the room. He looked around, analyzing the situation, and immediately understood what was happening. He's not the teacher you know, Eraserhead said. It's not that, sir, said a blond boy with a black lightning bolt in his hair. It's just that, continued an invisible person. He's the one who broke the number 1 hero's record in the physical part of the entrance exams, added another blonde who seemed to sparkle with excitement. Bakugo tensed up even more. He had already been on edge since Izuku had caught him off guard the last time they met. And now he had beaten All Might's record. Eraserhead was also in shock, trying to process the fact that some kid had surpassed the number 1 hero's record. We're doing a physical exam, yelled Eraserhead, and no one objected. The class stood up and passed by Izuku on their way to the changing rooms. Yar days, Izuku muttered as he continued walking. Everyone was changing in the changing room, separated by gender. As soon as Izuku entered the boys' changing room, silence fell. However, a certain grape-haired boy broke the quiet. Guys, look. The past generation left a peeping hole behind this poster, he exclaimed, his eyes wide with curiosity. Wah, said the blonde with the black lightning bolt in his hair as he inspected the hole. Before the blonde could examine it fully, the grape-haired boy pushed him aside and leaned in closer to the hole. Yar days, Izuku said aloud, drawing the class's attention. Ze warudo. The class just looked at him, confusion spreading across their faces. They were about to laugh when suddenly, time seemed to stop. 3 seconds left. The world relentlessly strikes the ball frozen midair with powerful punches. 2 seconds left. The world continues its barrage. 1 second left. The world delivers a final, mighty smack to the ball. Time resumes. The ball is sent soaring 1,136.92 meters. Everyone watches in awe as they see Izuku's stand launch the ball, which seems to fly into the sky without any visible contact. Eraserhead is taken aback by the distance the ball traveled, but, "Hey kid," Eraserhead calls out to Izuku. "Yes, sir." Izuku replies, "I erased your quirk. How were you able to send the ball flying?" Eraserhead asks. Eraserhead, "You'll have to figure that out on your own, but I must warn you, it is nearly impossible to understand the world's true ability," Izuku says with a mysterious tone. "The world? Is that the yellow figure? It's not the kid's ability." Many thoughts race through Eraserhead's mind, but he is interrupted by a girl with pink skin and hair. "Oh, this is going to be fun." "Oh why?" Eraserhead begins to explain but is cut off by Izuku Midoriya's chuckle, sending chills down everyone's spine. "Fun? If it's so fun, then the person who comes in last place will face the consequences from my stand, the world," Izuku declares. Everyone suddenly feels a sense of dread. Aizawa wears a grin that suggests mischief, and a short brunette speaks up. "Sir, isn't this against the rules?" the short brunette asks. "This is my class, and I can do what I want. Therefore, I allow him to punish the person in last place." Eraserhead exclaims with enthusiasm. Time skip after the quirk examination. Rankings: Izuku Midoriya, Shoto Todoroki, Katsuki Bakugo, Yairosa, Minoru Mineta. No, not again, the grape-haired boy named Mineta stammers. Izuku grins. "The world," he shouts, and the world appears. The world cries out as Mineta is left in a comically flattened state. 7. Chapter end. "Alright, problem children, switch back to your normal uniforms and get back to class," Eraserhead says, signaling that the quirk exam has concluded. "WWW wait for me." Minoru Mineta cries out, still feeling the effects of the earlier incident. Golden experience. Giorno Giovanna yells. Golden experience responds as it delivers a punch to Mineta, restoring him completely. "Whoa, thanks," Mineta says, beaming with gratitude. "No worries. But you owe me 5,000 yen for saving your life," Giorno replies. 20. WY. Mineta mumbles, looking downcast. Time skip to lunch break. Before anyone could leave the classroom for lunch, a pink-skinned girl steps up to the podium. "Hey everyone, since we didn't get the chance, let's introduce ourselves and our quirks before we head to lunch," she exclaims enthusiastically. "I'll start. My name is Mina Ishido, and my quirk is acid," Mina says sweetly. Everyone begins to introduce themselves, and the last to go is Izuku Midoriya. Izuku walks up to the stage as everyone watches him intently. Yar, I am Izuku Midoriya, you can call me Midoriya," he says before stepping down and heading toward the door. The broccoli opens the door and walks toward the cafeteria. That was quick, the class thinks. As Izuku walks through the hallways, he hears someone call out to him. "Oi, Midoriya," a voice says from behind. Izuku turns to see who it is. "Oh, Giorno," he acknowledges. "Wait for me," Giorno calls out. "For what?" asks the green bean. "Well, why don't we eat lunch together?" Giorno suggests as they walk toward the cafeteria. "And what is your reason for that?" Izuku inquires. "You seem like a lonely guy," Giorno replies. "A lonely?" Izuku thinks. A long silence follows before Izuku finally responds. "Fine," he concedes. "Yay." Giorno replies eagerly. Izuku and Giorno arrive at the cafeteria, grab trays, and order their food. They sit at a Class 1A table with Giorno sitting across from Izuku. They eat their meals as if they were dining at a 5-star restaurant. The class gives them curious looks, but they pay no mind. "Sue," Giorno starts. Izuku responds. "What's your ability?" Giorno leans in, intrigued. "You know I'm not telling you," Izuku replies. Silence hangs between them. "Is it teleportation?" Giorno asks. "No," Izuku answers. "Is it telekinesis?" Giorno tries again. "No," Izuku replies once more. "Hey," Giorno says. Izuku questions. "Is it the ability to stop time?" Giorno suggests. "And Nanny?" How did he figure out the world's true ability so quickly? Izuku thinks, scanning the room to ensure no one overheard. Fortunately, everyone else is too engrossed in their conversations. How did you figure this out? Izuku asks, curious. Yes, I knew it. Giorno celebrates internally. It's similar to Jotaro's ability, Giorno explains. This Jotaro guy again, he seems interesting, Izuku thinks. How is my ability similar to this Jotaro? Izuku asks. The fact that both of you can teleport and send things flying around you. He told me he has the ability to stop time, Giorno answers. Why would anyone just reveal their ability? This Jotaro seems confident in his stand, Izuku thinks. Giorno, Izuku says. Yes. Giorno replies, still focused on his food. Take me to this Jotaro after school, Izuku requests. Okay, Giorno agrees, finishing his meal. Izuku finishes his food a few minutes later. The bell rings, signaling that it's time to return to class. Time skip after class. Giorno and Izuku walk out of the school gates. Where are we going? Izuku asks. To Jotaro, Giorno answers. I know we're going to Jotaro, but where are we going to find him? Izuku asks, slightly annoyed. Oh, we're going to his apartment, Giorno replies. Izuku facepalms. After a while, they arrive at Jotaro's place. We're here, Giorno announces. They enter the building and take the elevator to the penthouse on the top floor. Oh, the penthouse. This Jotaro must be quite wealthy, Izuku remarked as they stood in the elevator. Yes, he runs the Speedwagon Foundation, Giorno replied. I thought it was managed by Joseph Joestar, Izuku said. Joseph did, but he passed away at the age of 142, Giorno explained. Ding was all Izuku could manage. Yep, Giorno confirmed. Ding. The elevator doors opened to reveal the penthouse. Jotaro-'s in. Giorno called out as he rushed into the living room. Giorno, how many times have I told you to be quiet? My daughter is sleeping. Jotaro shouted from the kitchen. Oops, sorry, Giorno whispered. Jotaro entered the living room, wearing a white coat and a matching hat that blended with his hair. Hey Jotaro, if you don't mind, I brought a friend of mine. I told him about you, and now he wants to meet you, Giorno said. Okay, Jotaro replied. Izuku, come here, Giorno called. Izuku stepped into the living room. Yar, he said. You must be Jotaro, Izuku said, looking at him. Yes, I am, Jotaro replied. Jotaro, let me introduce you to my friend, Izuku Midoriya, Giorno said. Midoriya? As in? Dio? Jotaro thought. Izuku noticed Jotaro's expression. Is something wrong, Jotaro? He asked. No, not at all, Jotaro replied calmly. They stared at each other, as if peering into each other's souls. As I was saying. Giorno interjected. Jotaro and Izuku snapped out of their moment and looked at Giorno. This is Izuku Midoriya, and his stand is the world, Giorno continued with a smile. So my suspicions were correct, Jotaro thought. Oh, that sounds like an interesting stand, Jotaro said. Yes, I know, Giorno replied. Anyway, I'm going to check on little Jolin. You two have fun, he said, winking at the two males as he walked toward Jotaro's daughter's room. One last test, Jotaro thought. Star Platinum, he yelled as his stand appeared beside him. Or, cried out Star Platinum as it threw a punch aimed at Izuku's face. Anani. Jotaro thought, wide-eyed as he watched Izuku stand just a few centimeters away from Star Platinum's fist. Star Platinum. Missed? Jotaro pondered, dismissing his stand. No, that's not possible. He has incredible precision, Jotaro continued his thoughts. Oh, Jotaro, is this your stand? Izuku asked. Jotaro remained silent, observing every detail of Izuku's movements, even his breathing. Since you showed yours, here's mine, Izuku said. The world, he declared as he summoned his stand. It's too similar, Jotaro thought. Aura. Star Platinum threw a punch at the world. Emu. The world exclaimed as it caught Star Platinum's hand. Aura. Star Platinum threw another punch. Emu. The world caught Star Platinum's hand again. Its strength and speed. Izuku noted. So, the world is the same type of stand as Star Platinum, he continued. The world used its legs to kick Star Platinum's gut. KH. Jotaro gasped, stumbling back. Before Jotaro could react, he felt a sudden impact against his chest. Ka! Jotaro fell to the floor, feeling the effects of the blow. Just in case, Izuku said as he approached Jotaro. He placed his hand on Jotaro's shoe and froze him in place, leaving his head free to breathe. What is happening here? Yelled a voice from the stairs. OMG, Jotaro! The person rushed toward him. Upon closer inspection, this person had blonde hair and wore a yellow jacket over a black shirt, paired with yellow pants. Ichwai, Jotaro! The person slapped Jotaro's face. Jotaro, wake up! He shouted again. Yar, I can't even get a moment of peace, Jotaro said, yawning as he opened his eyes. What? Shouldn't you be on the verge of death? There was blood oozing from your chest. Izuku exclaimed, staring at Jotaro's calm demeanor. The blood you saw was from ketchup packets I had under my clothes, Jotaro explained. Why does he keep ketchup packets under his clothing? Izuku wondered. Aura. Star Platinum emerged and broke the ice surrounding Jotaro. Finally, I'm free. That was freezing, Jotaro said as Star Platinum disappeared. Izuku said, taken aback. No need to worry, I was just testing your abilities, Jotaro assured him. Okay, but why did you have to test me? Izuku asked. Because I was bored and needed something to punch, Jotaro replied. Can I ask another question? Izuku inquired. Go ahead, Jotaro said. Giorno mentioned you have the ability to stop time. Is that true? Izuku asked again. Yes, Jotaro confirmed. Oh nice, how long does it take for you to stop time? Izuku asked. What do you mean, kid? Jotaro replied, confused. Well, my stand can also stop time. Another person can stop time? Jotaro thought. But it takes 3 seconds from activation until my time stops, Izuku explained. Well, I don't have a delay, Jotaro replied. What? Izuku exclaimed in disbelief. But Izuku started before being interrupted. Did you forget about me? I feel invisible, the blonde-haired man said. Sorry, Jotaro said. Izuku meet Dio, Jotaro continued. Dio? From the book? But wait. He is possibly your father, Jotaro said as Dio waved at Izuku. My what? Izuku screamed internally. Izuku, Dio, and Jotaro sat on the 2 couches in the living room, with Izuku and Jotaro on one couch and Dio on the other. As they settled in, they were interrupted by a little child's voice calling out. Dada! Everyone turned to see where the voice came from. Jolin, Jotaro said with a smile. Jolin jumped onto Jotaro's lap. Dad? Who is this boy? She asked. This is Izuku Midoriya, Jotaro replied. Do you have the same power as Daddy? Jolin asked Izuku. Well, yes, but Izuku began before Jolin started patting and playing with his hair. It's fluffy and green. Jolin exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. Izuku, Giorno said as he walked into the living room. I see you met my dad, he continued. Oh, you never told me your dad was Jotaro, Izuku replied. Oh no, both Dio and Jotaro thought, sweat dropping. What? Jotaro was never my dad, said Giorno. Where do you think I got my blonde hair? Izuku glared at Dio, who felt a bead of sweat trickle down his forehead. Was that your name? Asked Izuku. Yes, I am Dio, replied the taller blonde male. All right, explain how Giorno and I are brothers, said Izuku, keeping a watchful eye on Dio to ensure he wouldn't try anything unexpected. Well, Dio scratched his head. He went on a spree and, well, became a father to your mothers, Jotaro said casually. What he said, Dio added. Okay, Izuku responded. How are you taking this so lightly? Dio asked, surprised. I could really care less about who my dad is, Izuku answered. Phew, Dio mumbled under his breath. So now that I know Giorno and I are brothers, let's celebrate, said Giorno. They partied for a few hours until it was time for Giorno to head home. Well, it's getting late. I should go home, said Giorno. Oh, okay, be safe, replied Izuku. Yeah, I know, Giorno said as he walked into the elevator, heading for the ground floor. The doors closed after a few seconds. How about you, Izuku? Aren't you going to head home? Dio asked. I don't really have a home. I live in the forest, Izuku answered. Then why don't you stay here? It's better than living in the forest, Jotaro suggested. Really? Izuku exclaimed, his eyes lighting up. Yeah, sure. We have a spare room next to the training room, Dio said. Okay, Izuku replied. Where is my room? I'll show you, Jolin exclaimed, raising her hand. It's just over here. She walked down a hallway and pointed to a room. Oh, okay, thanks, Jolin, said Izuku. No worries, Jolin replied cheerfully. Izuku walked to his room and opened the door. Inside, he found a bed, a small bathroom, a couch, and a TV. This is fine, said Izuku as he plopped down on the bed and quickly fell asleep. The next day, Izuku woke up before the sun even rose. He went through his morning routine but soon realized his uniform was still in the forest. Determined, Izuku used his ability to time skip 3 times to reach the elevator. After a brief wait, the doors opened, revealing the first floor. He dashed out of the building and turned left toward the forest, arriving there in about 30 minutes. Using his powers and his own hands, he gathered his belongings and sprinted back to Jotaro's place, taking another 30 minutes. He arrived at the top floor and time skipped 3 more times to reach his room. With an hour left before school started, he quickly put on his uniform and jumped out of his window, using his ability to cushion his fall. Jotaro's place is about an hour and 30 minutes away from school, Izuku thought, feeling the pressure build. He ran, using his ability to give himself boosts. Eventually, he reached UA with only 15 minutes to spare before class began. He didn't stop, racing to class 1A and occasionally time skipping to speed up the process. He arrived just as the bell rang, taking his seat just as Aizawa walked in. All right, class, shut up and listen, said Eraserhead. The class straightened up, focusing on their teacher. You will spend the entire day on hero training, he continued. Yay! The class cheered, except for 4 students, Izuku Midoriya, Shoto Todoroki, Giorno Giovanna, and Katsuki Bakugo. Suddenly, loud booming sounds echoed from the hallway. But the classroom door flew open as a large man in a yellow suit strode in. I'm coming through like a normal person, he yelled. That's definitely not normal, thought Izuku with a sigh. All Might, the class shouted in excitement. All Might, echoed another voice. Everyone turned to see Eraserhead, furious, with his scarf floating around him. Aizawa, All Might said, sweat forming on his brow. Aizawa? The class echoed in confusion. Yes, that's your teacher's name. Did he not tell you? All Might asked. The class began to respond before. That's the 10th time you've broken a door. Eraserhead yelled. Hehehe, All Might chuckled nervously. Ziwarudo, shouted Izuku, knowing what was about to happen. All Might stared at Izuku, while Giorno seemed unfazed. All Might dashed toward where the door used to be, closing the distance rapidly. Time has stopped. 3 seconds left. Izuku runs to All Might. Izuku continues his sprint toward All Might. With no time to bring All Might back, Izuku uses the world to strike the number 1 hero's head. Time resumes. All Might collapses to the ground, unconscious, as Izuku uses the world to drag him back to the classroom. Everyone stares in shock, witnessing Izuku pulling the unconscious hero. He took down the number 1 hero in an instant, murmurs the class. Even Aizawa looks surprised. Impossible. Bakugo yells. That's fake. It's all an act. Stupid, you can't do that. Bakugo continues. See for yourself, Izuku replies, dropping All Might on the podium as the world disappears. Izuku walks to his seat while the entire class, except Giorno, rushes to All Might. A girl with black hair, Momo Yaoyorozu, inspects him. He's telling the truth, says Yaoyorozu. Look, There's even a bruise on his head, and he's not responding at all, Momo adds. The class and Eraserhead are in a daze, stunned that a student took down the number 1 hero so quickly. Yatter days, Giorno and Izuku say in unison. The two stand users approach the unconscious All Might, and the students step aside. Golden experience, Giorno commands as his stand appears behind him. Muda, cries Golden experience, delivering a punch to All Might that heals him completely. All Might awakens from his slumber. What happened? Was there a villain attack? He yells. Calm down, I'll show you footage of what happened, Eraserhead says, displaying footage from the security cameras, which shows All Might suddenly falling to the ground with Izuku beside him. I am possible, exclaims All Might. Izuku Midoriya, I would like to have a chat with you, All Might says. Ooh, he's in trouble, remarks Kaminari Denki, a blonde with a black lightning bolt in his hair. Muda, Izuku responds, tossing a knife near Kaminari's foot. AAA, yells Denki. Izuku and All Might step out of the classroom as Giorno proceeds to check on Kaminari. What? Izuku asks All Might. All Might begins but is interrupted. No thanks, I don't want your quirk, Izuku replies. All Might tries again but is cut off. Yes, I am sure, Izuku insists. A moment of silence follows. All Might starts, only to be interrupted once more. No, I am not a mind reader, Izuku states. Does he know about All for One? All Might wonders. No, I do not know about this All for One, Izuku says. It's confirmed he is a mind reader, thinks All Might. Are we done here? Izuku asks. Why, All Might begins but is cut off again. Okay, bye, Izuku says, turning to walk back into the classroom. The class is already seated, silent and hesitant to speak, while Aizawa stands next to his desk, his hair neatly tied back. Okay, Izuku asks as he walks to his seat. Class, go to ground beta. All Might will meet you there. Your hero suits will be in the changing rooms in your lockers, Aizawa instructs. Yes, Essa. The class responds in unison as they head to the changing rooms. Class 1A gathers in the observation room as All Might begins to speak. You will be doing a hero versus villain training exercise. 1 hero and 19 villains, All Might announces. Knowing UA, all the teachers are most likely watching this exercise, especially since I have the most anonymous quirk, Izuku thinks. What? Isn't that a bit unfair? Uraraka questions. No, the hero will be Izuku Midoriya, since he was the one to knock me out. All Might explains. But, sir, how did you know he knocked you out? The cameras only showed Midoriya teleporting before you were knocked out, said Ida Tenya. Considering that none of the students or teachers have a teleportation or psychic quirk, it would make sense that Midoriya was the cause, seeing as he is the only one we've seen teleport and move objects without touching them, Aizawa said from under a table in his sleeping bag. The class screamed. Yes, I suppose that does make sense, Ida said, satisfied with the answer. I suppose that explains all the chaos from last chapter, said the sparkling Aoyama. Aoyama, did you say something? Asked Mineta, who was beside the sparkling blonde. Oh, nothing, replied Aoyama. Hopefully that answers your question, Tenya Ida, said All Might. Yes, it did, sir, replied Ida. Good, now I shall explain what to do in this exercise. The villain team of 19 students shall hide a bomb in any building in the fake city, as long as it is placed where the bomb is still accessible and remains in that building, said All Might. Question, sir, said Giorno. Yes, asked All Might. So we cannot seal off the bomb in its own separate room? Giorno asked. No, you cannot, answered All Might. Now, Izuku here must find the bomb in 40 minutes or less, which includes finding the building where the bomb is placed, All Might said. The villain team will be given 10 minutes to prepare. You may start now, said All Might. The class rushed into the fake city, except for Izuku, who sat on a chair waiting for the 10 minutes to end. So, said All Might. Yes, asked Izuku. Mind telling me your quirk? Asked All Might. No, thank you, said Izuku. You have 3 questions left, continued All Might. This kid, thought All Might. A while ago, how were you able to know what I was going to say and who All for One is? How did you do it? Asked All Might. I placed a flesh bud on you, said Izuku. A flesh bud? Asked All Might. Yes, a flesh bud allows me to control a victim, but it also lets me peer into their memories and see their current thoughts. One question left, said Izuku. What? How? Asked All Might. Because you already asked two, no questions left, Izuku said as the bell rang, signaling that the 10 minutes were up. See you later, All Might, said Izuku. Time skip into the fake city. Izuku walked through the gate. Knowing them, they must have placed it at the very back of the city. After all, Bakugo and Todoroki wouldn't bother to help, and Momo must have underestimated my knowledge. They might also have gone for the tall buildings, but I don't think Momo would allow them to go for the tallest, Izuku thought as he walked. Alright, I'll check the buildings at the farthest end of the city that have at least 8 floors. Izuku finalized his plan and ran to the end of the city, using the world to boost him. After a while of running, Izuku spotted a drone flying above him. Drones. I should follow them since there's certainly at least one drone following each student, thought Izuku. Izuku kept running until he finally found a building with 10 floors, filled with a buzzing sound. I found it, Izuku said, realizing he only had 15 minutes left to find the bomb. Chapter end. Izuku walked into the building, and immediately he was surrounded by 4 people, Denki Kaminari, Eijiro Kirishima, Kyoka Jiro, and Rikido Sato. Now, yelled Jiro. Kaminari electrified the ground around Izuku, while Kirishima hardened and rushed toward him. Izuku yelled. The world! Izuku shouted again. Kirishima kept running toward Izuku. However, Denki stopped the electric field in fear of Izuku. Foolish! Izuku yelled. Take that, Katsuki yelled triumphantly. As the smoke from the explosion cleared, the entire class noticed that Izuku had vanished, only to reappear right behind Katsuki. A faint yellow aura surrounded Izuku, and his eyes were hidden beneath the shadow of his bangs, releasing all the pent-up rage he had accumulated over the years. Izuku began to chuckle, the chuckles escalating into laughter, and then into joyous screams. Hinjaku, Hinjaku, he exclaimed, crossing his arms and briefly touching Katsuki, causing him to freeze in place. What? Katsuki stammered in shock. Katsuki Bakugo. Izuku said in a low, threatening tone, the yellow aura intensifying. The class and Katsuki stared in disbelief, unable to react. Enough, he shouted, the aura reaching its peak as he summoned his stand for the first time. A figure resembling a yellow man appeared behind Izuku, instilling fear in everyone present. Katsuki trembled visibly. Yar days, I don't want to deal with you all today, Izuku said casually, dismissing his stand. With 3 seconds left on the clock, Izuku approached Mineta. 2 seconds left. Izuku summoned the world. 1 second left. The world unleashed a rapid barrage toward Mineta. Time resumed, and everyone watched in shock as the grape-haired boy was sent flying a few meters back, with Izuku standing where he had just been. The class understood that laughing would be a grave mistake. To anyone else who dares to peek through this hole, you will face the wrath of my stand, the world, Izuku warned. Everyone turned away, resuming their activities, some students visibly shaken. Tisich, Katsuki scoffed, drawing everyone's attention. He just teleported, so what? Katsuki said with a cocky tone. You haven't changed, Katsuki Bakugo, Izuku remarked as he suddenly appeared behind him. Katsuki growled, attempting to unleash an explosion at Izuku, but the broccoli-haired boy dodged effortlessly, placing a finger on Katsuki's arm and freezing it instantly. "En nanny!" the panicked Katsuki exclaimed. "You're nowhere near my level, Katsuki Bakugo," Izuku stated confidently. "The world!" Katsuki shouted as his stand appeared behind him, realizing the fate that awaited him. "WB," Katsuki began, but was abruptly interrupted. "Too late!" Izuku screamed. The world shouted, delivering a flurry of punches to Katsuki. Katsuki collapsed to the ground, clearly in distress. The class erupted into panic, fearing that Izuku had seriously harmed him. Yar, Giorno, get over here, Izuku called. Giorno approached with a sigh. I'm assuming you want me to heal him? He asked. Precisely, Izuku replied. Giorno face-bombed. Golden experience, he shouted, summoning his stand. Golden experience cried as it punched Katsuki, healing all his wounds in an instant before vanishing. Katsuki bolted out of the changing room at lightning speed, eager to escape Izuku's wrath. The rest of the class followed suit, heading to the PE grounds. Time skip to PE grounds. Took you long enough, Eraserhead remarked. Anyways, Izuku, you scored the highest in the entrance exam. Stand in the circle and throw the ball as far as you can. You may use your quirk, Eraserhead instructed. Ha! Deku could never, Katsuki began, but Izuku shot him a glare that silenced him immediately. Izuku took the ball from Eraserhead and stepped into the circle. The world, he called, and the stand emerged to take the ball from him. Ze Warudo! Izuku shouted. Aizawa looked confused. The class expected another teleportation. The world tossed the ball a few inches off its hand. Time stopped. Kirishima halted mid-run, realizing Izuku was no longer there. Ka! He exclaimed. Everyone turned to see a knocked-out Pikachu with Izuku standing on top of the unconscious body. Denki! Jiro yelled. You! Kirishima charged at Izuku, ready to throw a punch. Madada! Izuku declared, hurling 3 knives toward Kirishima. Kirishima hardened just in time to block the knives, and as Izuku came within reach, he swung his fist. The world appeared, colliding fists with Kirishima. Oh no, Kirishima thought. The world cried, each punch shattering Kirishima's hardened skin. The redhead fell to the ground, unconscious and battered. Jiro was nearly in tears as she plugged her earphone jacks into the ground, sending sound waves toward Izuku. Nanny! Izuku exclaimed as he was hit by the sound waves. Oh, it doesn't hurt, he said dismissively. Jiro fell to the ground in despair, feeling powerless against Izuku. Ze Warudo! Izuku shouted. 3 seconds left. Sato realized what was about to happen. 2 seconds left. Sato consumed sugar, growing muscular. 1 second left. Sato dashed toward Izuku. Time has stopped. Time has stopped. 3 seconds left. Golden Experience's fist is frozen just inches away from Izuku's face, but the determined green-haired boy pushes forward, focused on the bomb. 2 seconds left. Izuku continues to run, maneuvering past classmates who block his path. 1 second left. He sprints toward the bomb, now only a meter away. Time resumes. Everyone watches as Izuku seems to teleport to the bomb. Stop him before he reaches it. Giorno shouted as everyone charged at Izuku. Too late! Izuku exclaimed, placing his hand on the ground and freezing a 6-meter area around him, trapping anyone caught within it. Watch out! Momo yelled, but it was too late. 75% of the class was frozen, preventing the remaining students from reaching Izuku. Izuku then touched the bomb, signifying victory for the hero team. Izuku Midoriya, you have won the exercise. Please meet me in the principal's office, a voice announced from one of the drones. Congratulations, Izuku, Giorno said, making his way over. Thanks, Gio. You guys put up a great fight, Izuku replied. Gio? Giorno asked, puzzled. It's what I'll call you from now on. You don't mind, do you? Izuku said with a smile. No, I don't, Giorno replied. Robots entered the room and began unfreezing the trapped students. Time skipped to the principal's office. Izuku knocked on the door. Come in, a voice called. Izuku walked into the room, greeted by a unique creature that was a mix of mouse, bear, and dog. Hello, Izuku Midoriya. I am Nizu, and I would like to ask you a few questions. Please take a seat, Nizu said. Izuku moved to a couch and sat down, while Nizu took a seat across from him. Yes. Izuku asked. Your ability, that yellow figure, what is it called? Nizu inquired. I call it the world. You mentioned ability, Why not quirk? Izuku replied. Yes. I suppose you already know it as a stand, correct? Nizu asked. How do you know about stands? Izuku questioned. Because I have one, Nizu said with a smile. Oh, what is it called? Izuku asked, intrigued. You're not going to ask how I got it? Nizu replied. There are only two ways to get a stand, being born with it or being struck by an arrow. I assume you weren't born with it, Izuku answered. I see. Anyway, I call it Rat God, Nizu said. Its ability? Izuku asked. I'm not telling you if you don't tell me yours, Nizu replied. I guess I'll have to find a way to get it out of you, Izuku said, determination in his voice. The world, he declared, and the stand appeared behind him. The world was inches from Nizu's face before he was interrupted. Wait. I'll tell you. Nizu shouted. Very well, Izuku said as the world vanished. My ability is to command animals to do my bidding, Nizu explained. Okay, is that all? Izuku asked. You're not surprised by my ability? Nizu inquired. No, I've met stronger people with stronger abilities, Izuku said. Well, then you are dismissed, Nizu said as Izuku stood and left the office. Izuku made his way to Jotaro's apartment. He entered the building and took the elevator to the top floor. The elevator doors opened, and Izuku was greeted by Jolin. Hi! Jolin exclaimed. Hi, Jolin, Izuku replied with a smile. Daddy wants to see you, he's in his office, Jolin said. All right, Izuku said, wondering if he had done something wrong. He walked until he reached Jotaro's office. Izuku knocked on the door. Come in, Jotaro called from inside. Izuku opened the door and entered Jotaro's office, taking a seat. You mentioned you have a startup time for your time-stopping ability, correct? Jotaro asked while signing papers. Yes, Izuku replied. I've decided to train you until you can stop time instantaneously, Jotaro said. Really? Izuku exclaimed, excitement filling his voice. Yes. I don't see a problem with it, considering Star Platinum and the world seem to be the same type of stand, Jotaro explained. All right, when do we start? Izuku asked eagerly. Next week, Jotaro said, and Izuku nodded as he left the office. Chapter end. It is currently Friday, and we see Izuku walking to the location Jotaro specified for their training. Izuku followed the directions from Google Maps and found himself at a beach littered with trash. What? Izuku asked, confused. Did I take a wrong turn somewhere? He wondered aloud. No, a voice replied from behind him. Izuku turned to see Jotaro approaching. Oh hey Jotaro. Why are we here? Izuku asked. Because this is a suitable place to train your stamina. You'll be cleaning up the trash from the beach and moving it to the parking lot, Jotaro answered. Izuku's expression shifted to disbelief. He hadn't expected Jotaro's training to be so grueling. When do I start? He asked hesitantly. Now, Jotaro said firmly. As Izuku made his way to pick up his first piece of trash, he thought of an idea. Maybe he could. You cannot use the world. Jotaro shouted from behind him. Ah man, Izuku said, picking up a broken refrigerator and hauling it to the parking lot. Time skip. Izuku trained with Jotaro every weekend. Occasionally, the two stand users would spar. As a result, Izuku's time stop limit increased to 6 seconds, with 1 second needed to activate it. He could now time skip without any limits, except for the distance he could travel. Hey kid, Jotaro called to Izuku. Yeah. Izuku replied. That's all I can do for you. The beach is clean, and my Star Platinum is too slow for your stand, Jotaro said. Wait, what? Izuku exclaimed. Yep, Jotaro confirmed. You should head back to the apartment. Tomorrow is Monday, and you need rest, Jotaro continued. But who will train me now? Izuku asked, feeling a bit down. That's up to you, kid, Jotaro said as Izuku walked back to the apartment, feeling a mix of emotions. The next day, Izuku walked into Class 1A just as Eraserhead arrived a bit later. Today, we will be going on a field trip, Aizawa announced, prompting cheers from the class. Change into your hero costumes and meet me behind the school. A bus will be waiting for you, Aizawa continued. The entire class rushed to the changing rooms and quickly gathered at the back of the school. Get in, Aizawa instructed as the students boarded the bus. Izuku was the last to enter, taking a seat next to Aizawa. The bus began to move, filled with the sounds of students chatting and the occasional shout from Bakugo. So, what do you want to talk about? Izuku asked Aizawa. What do you mean? Aizawa replied. I can tell you want to say something, Izuku responded. Well, is your quirk even a quirk? Eraserhead inquired. What is your reason for asking this question? Izuku asked. I've tried erasing your quirk multiple times during training sessions, but it never seems to work, Eraserhead explained. If you must know, it is not a quirk, Izuku said, surprising Aizawa. How could you not have a quirk but possess those abilities? Aizawa questioned. That is something I will not tell you, Izuku replied, leaving Eraserhead disappointed. We're here, the bus driver shouted. The class hopped off the bus, marveling at the size of the USJ. Wow, Denki read the 3 letters above the doorway. Universal Studios Japan? Denki guess? No, it is the unforeseen simulation joint, said a figure in a spacesuit. Oh my gosh, 13, you're my favorite hero. Uraraka exclaimed, standing next to Tsuyu. I'm happy to hear that, but let us continue, 13 said, opening the door to the USJ and revealing various zones designed for different types of disasters. Wow, the class exclaimed, their eyes sparkling, only to be interrupted. Black mist began to form in the center of the USJ as villains emerged. Wow, they have fake villains. Kirishima shouted. No, those are real. Izuku yelled, standing next to Eraserhead as he jumped down into the UI. Wait, kid. Eraserhead called out, but it was too late. Izuku had already covered a significant distance. Eraserhead could only follow Izuku's lead as he jumped down as well. The class was focused on Izuku and Eraserhead battling, unaware of the dark mist swirling around them. Watch out! 13 yelled, but it was too late. The entire class had already vanished. Chapter end. Muda. The world echoed as Izuku Midoriya fought against the close-range villains, while Eraserhead dealt with those using ranged quirks. In just 25 minutes, roughly 90% of the thugs were knocked out. Those are just pawns. Prepare for the final boss, said a boy standing next to a figure made of black mist. Nomu, attack, commanded the boy. Yar days, Izuku muttered as Eraserhead took a fighting stance. The Nomu charged at Izuku, who was preparing to counter with a punch. Kid! Eraserhead shouted. Zawarudo! Izuku cried out as the Nomu's punch came dangerously close to his face. 3 seconds left. Izuku throws knives towards Jiro, but they freeze midair just before reaching her. 2 seconds left. Izuku runs to Sato. 1 second left. Izuku delivers a swift chop to Sato's neck. Time now resumes. Jiro feels the impact as the knives strike her arms and legs, while Sato collapses to the ground, unconscious. Izuku throws 10 more knives at Jiro. She manages to dodge 3 but is hit in the chest by the remaining 7. 3. How troublesome, Izuku mutters as he sees robots carrying the defeated students to Recovery Girl, with 10 minutes left to find the bomb. Izuku begins to ascend the stairs. No one is stopping me? Izuku wonders as he reaches the 3rd floor. They must have seen how easily I defeated those 4 students, he concludes. Now on the 6th floor, he has 8 minutes remaining to locate the bomb. Deku, a voice echoes from the far end of the hallway. Yo, Katsuki, took you long enough, Izuku replies. What? Shiny eye. Bakugo yells, unleashing a large explosion that engulfs the entire hallway. After a moment of silence, Bakugo hears laughter. And Nani! Katsuki exclaims. Emu! Izuku shouts, launching a flurry of knives down the hallway. Kuh! Bakugo groans as knives are scattered across his body. Nice try, Izuku remarks as robots begin to carry Bakugo away. Izuku continues up the stairs, only to find the entire class and Todoroki waiting for him on the 10th floor. He is taken aback by the numerous traps set throughout the area. The class is divided into 2 groups. the ranged group and the close combat group. The close combat group starts advancing toward the green-haired boy. Oh, you're approaching me? Instead of running away, you're coming right to me? Izuku taunts. We can't take you down without getting closer, Giorno from the close-ranged group responds. Then come as close as you like, Izuku replies. Projectiles fly at Izuku as the close-ranged team bombards him with punches and kicks. Izuku uses his fists and the world to defend, sometimes skipping away to avoid incoming attacks. With 2 minutes left on the timer, Izuku grows impatient and activates his ultimate ability. Ze Warudo! Izuku yells. 3. Here we go again, everyone thinks. Giorno charges at Izuku, with golden experience following closely behind. Giorno throws a punch at Izuku. Time has stopped. 6 seconds left. Izuku sidesteps the Nomu's punch and hurls knives at it. 5 seconds left. Using the world, Izuku bombards the Nomu's entire body. 4 seconds left. The world continues its relentless assault. 3 seconds left. Izuku grabs some knives and plunges them into the Nomu's chest. 2 seconds left. Izuku slashes at the Nomu's ankles. 1 second left. Izuku drives a knife into the Nomu's head. Time has resumed. The Nomu collapses to the ground, lifeless, as Eraserhead stares in shock. Izuku strides toward the blue-haired boy. See, cheater. You're hacking hacks, the blue-haired boy screams, scratching his neck as Izuku approaches him. 50. Master, we have to go, the mist man whispers into the blue-haired boy's ear. Fine, the blue-haired boy reluctantly agrees. The mist man opens a portal. Too slow, you're already in my range. Izuku shouts as the two villains turn back. Ziwarudo, Tokyo Tamare. Izuku yells, his voice echoing throughout the USJ. For what? The villains think as Eraserhead contemplates Izuku's declaration. Time has stopped. 6 seconds left. Izuku uses his stand to leap over the wrecked buildings. 5 seconds left. Izuku is nowhere to be seen. 4 seconds left. Izuku is still missing. 3 seconds left. Roda roller dereya. Izuku's voice echoes from above. 2 seconds left. Izuku drops a road roller onto the two villains. 1 second left. Emude. Izuku exclaims as he uses his elbows and the world to push down on the road roller, driving it deeper into the ground. Time has resumed. Eraserhead watches as a road roller suddenly appears where the villains once stood, with Izuku standing atop the machine, panting. I did it, Izuku says, relief washing over him as Class 1A gathers around. Where did you guys go? Izuku asks, his voice tired. We got separated into different zones because of the mist guy, Giorno replies. I see, Izuku says, still catching his breath. He scans the USJ and notices the remaining thugs lying motionless. Hey Aizawa, look at the thugs, Izuku says, confusion etched on his face as he points. What the hell? Eraserhead exclaims, seeing the scene. Over there. Look, shouts a boy with grape-colored hair. Everyone turns to where Mineta is pointing. The class sees the Nomu, hunched over one of the unconscious thugs. What? Izuku exclaims, loud enough for the Nomu to notice him. Reee. The Nomu screeches, recognizing Izuku. It charges at him with terrifying speed, almost as if it were teleporting. And Nanny! Even the world can't keep track of it. Izuku gasps. Watch out, yells Invisigirl, who is behind him. It's too late, the Nomu strikes, and Izuku is knocked back. Hey kid! Eraserhead rushes to Izuku, seeing the damage done. Half of the class turns away, unable to stomach the sight, while the others stare in horror. Hey, Eraserhead says, looking at Izuku, who seems unresponsive. SCEE. The Nomu rampages through the USJ, smashing buildings and sending shockwaves through the air. It's a monster, the class murmurs. Yar days, a man in a white trench coat says. Everyone turns to the voice, hope igniting in Giorno's eyes. Yar days, the man in the trench coat says from behind the class. Jotaro-san. Giorno yells. Yo, Giorno, Jotaro replies. What are you doing here? Giorno asks. My dolphins were stolen from my research lab. Luckily, I placed trackers on them, which led me here, Jotaro explains. The class is momentarily speechless. Scree-e. The Nomu bellows as it charges at Jotaro. Star Platinum! Jotaro shouts. Aura! Star Platinum emerges and delivers a powerful punch to the Nomu's head, sending it flying. He seems weak. I'm surprised Izuku couldn't handle it, Jotaro remarks. He knows Izuku? The class wonders. He did, Eraserhead confirms. Jotaro asks. He managed to take down the Nomu, but it suddenly regained energy and started rampaging again. Eraserhead trails off. Continue, Jotaro urges. Izuku was caught off guard and struck by the creature, Eraserhead says, and the class looks down, disheartened. And I thought the kid was invincible. Jotaro thinks. Giorno, call Dio and send him our location. I might need some help, Jotaro instructs. Already on it, Giorno replies, pulling out his phone. Scree. The Nomu charges again at Jotaro, closing the distance in an instant. Esu Purakaina, Ziwarudo. Jotaro yells. Time has stopped. 2 seconds left. Aura 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 aura. Star Platinum cries out as it unleashes a flurry of punches on the Nomu. 1 second left. Aura. Star Platinum shouts as it delivers a heavy blow to the Nomu's head. Sir. Time now resumes. The Nomu is sent flying back. That ability, it's almost like Izuku's, the class thinks. The Nomu screeches as it regains its footing. That thing is incredibly resilient, Jotaro comments. Star Platinum and the Nomu exchange blows, both evenly matched. However, the balance shifts as the Nomu begins to overpower Jotaro's Star Platinum. Keikona Power, Jotaro mutters. Translation. This power. Jotaro is knocked back several meters as the Nomu wastes no time. It dashes toward him, leaving no room for reaction. Sheet. Jotaro exclaims. Shiny eye, a voice calls out. Multiple knives embed themselves into the Nomu, causing it to panic. Dio, took you long enough, Jotaro says. Your daughter was persistent, Dio replies. The Nomu regains its focus as it notices the duo. The Nomu bellows. Now. Jotaro signals. Dio throws knives at the Nomu while Jotaro unleashes a barrage from Star Platinum. The Nomu absorbs the hits, seemingly unfazed. What? This guy should at least be pushed back a bit, Jotaro says. Yes, Dio agrees. Jotaro and Dio leap away from the Nomu. This thing is indestructible, Dio states. Suddenly, the Nomu vanishes. Where did it go? Jotaro asks. At least it's gone, Dio replies. Jotaro starts but is interrupted. Scree. The Nomu falls from the sky, holding a massive boulder. Esu Purakaina, Ziwarudo. Jotaro yells, reacting swiftly. Time has stopped. 2 seconds left. Jotaro runs to the side, pulling Dio along with him. 1 second left. Jotaro continues running. Sir. Time has resumed. The Nomu crashes down with a boulder in hand, and the shockwave knocks everyone down. The Nomu screams as it slowly walks towards Jotaro and Dio, holding a lamppost. Jotaro and Dio can't move, too injured from the debris sent flying by the boulder. Sheet, Jotaro mutters. Suddenly, Aizawa kicks the Nomu on the head, but the erasure hero is sent flying back. Idiot, Dio remarks. The Nomu approaches Jotaro and Dio, lifting the lamppost above its head. The deformed creature swings it down before. Ziwarudo, over heaven. A voice calls from behind Jotaro and Dio, drawing everyone's attention, including the Nomu. Deku? Katsuki asks. Izuku your stand? Giorno observes, looking at Izuku. It seems that the final step of the heaven plan was accidentally completed, Izuku replies. The heave, Giorno begins but is cut off. lie. The Nomu screeches, believing it has harmed the greenette. The world, over heaven declares as it throws knives at the Nomu. That's useless against the monster, I've tried it, Dio says. The knives begin to spark with electricity. Hinga, the Nomu questions. Suddenly, the knives unleash a massive blast of electricity, white and yellow in color, dealing significant damage to the Nomu. Nanny! Jotaro and Dio exclaim in unison. Izuku approaches the slightly fried Nomu. SCRE! The Nomu screeches as it charges at Izuku. The world, Izuku says calmly as the world, over heaven punches the Nomu back, sending it flying to the back of the USJ. The Nomu crashes onto the crushed concrete as Izuku uses the world to leap to where the creature lies. I shall take precautions against you, Izuku states, addressing the Nomu. The Nomu screeches while attempting to crawl away. Too slow. Heaven ascended smite. Izuku declares as white and yellow lightning appears before him, completely frying the creature. Yar days, Izuku says as he uses the world to jump back to where the class is. Giorno, are you hurt? Izuku asks. No, but Jotaro and Dio are, Giorno replies. I see, Izuku responds as he walks over to Jotaro and Dio. The world, Izuku commands, and the world appears. Wormholes form on the hands of Izuku's stand. The world touches the two men, rewriting reality so that their wounds never existed. How? Dio asks, astonished. What do you mean? Izuku replies. How did you achieve heaven? I've tried so many times, even sacrificing my stand once, Dio explains. I don't know, the book you wrote was very vague, Izuku admits. You read the book? But those steps never worked for me, Dio says, confused. I really don't know, I've had a very bizarre day and just want some rest, Izuku states as he uses his stand to jump away. The next day. It was Saturday, and Izuku was in the training room of Jotaro's apartment, experimenting with the world, over heaven's capabilities. Izuku's time-stopping ability had increased to 9 seconds, and its activation time had decreased to 0 seconds. To Izuku's discoveries, the world had gained 2 new abilities. The first was to summon lightning from above and infuse any object with it. The lightning was white and yellow in color. The second ability was to rewrite reality. He could erase or add anything to reality. For example, he could erase wounds or make it so that he and Bakugo never met. But the larger the change, the more energy it required. Izuku heard a knock on the door while trying to erase a pencil from existence. Come in, Izuku called. Izuku, Dad is asking if you want pancakes. Jolin yelled as she burst into the room. Jolin ran around the training room, holding up a toy plane. Jolin, be careful, there are a lot of things in here that could hurt you, Izuku warned. If Dad allowed this room to be built, then it's safe for me, right? Jolin asked, still running around. By the wa-oof, Jolin exclaimed, cutting herself off as she ran into the hand of the world, which still had a wormhole on it. Jolin! Izuku shouted in worry, as he didn't have much control over his ability yet. Jolin fell to the ground, hugging the area that hurt most. Jolin, are you okay? Izuku asked, noticing Jolin glowing with a faint blue aura. Yeah, I'm fine, Jolin replied, standing back up and skipping happily to the door. If she says she's fine, then I'm sure she's fine. The worst that could happen is if she was erased from existence, Izuku thought as he returned to his training. Your battles haven't ended yet, Aizawa said, causing the class to panic, thinking they would have to fight more villains. The UA Sports Festival is right around the corner. You are given this entire week to train for it. Full details are found under your desks. Do whatever you want, and good luck, Aizawa announced as he slid into his sleeping bag and fell asleep. Yes. A week worth of freedom. Denki Kaminari yelled. Yeah. Eijiro Kirishima replied. Not really. Momo Yayarosa said, looking at the paper she found under her desk. H, the two boys exclaimed in unison. The UA Sports Festival is used by pro heroes, and if we are lucky, we could be invited as interns in their agencies, Momo continued. Oh, the class sighed, looking down, disappointed. The UA Sports Festival? That will be a cakewalk. No one can stand against my ability, the world, especially now that I, Izuku Midoriya, have attained heaven, Izuku thought. Everyone began discussing training. Momo eventually suggested making pairs, each designed for efficient training. The class talked about who they should pair with to train their quirks simultaneously. Tsuyu Azui went up on the podium and started asking about everyone's quirks, writing them down on the whiteboard. Eventually, Tsuyu asked the last person, Izuku Midoriya, about his quirk. Midoriya, your turn. Aside from freezing and that figure that follows you around, what is your teleporting ability? I refuse to believe that it is simply teleportation, Tsuyu said. Since I know that I will win the sports festival, I shall give you an advantage by telling you the world's ability, Izuku replied. Cocky, everyone thought. The world's true ability is to stop time itself. Izuku shouted, his voice echoing with urgency. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Is this true? Tsuyu asked, her voice trembling with concern. The ability to stop time could be incredibly dangerous. Izuku began, but was interrupted by a loud voice. I refuse to believe this. Show me proof. Katsuki Bakugo yelled, his frustration palpable. Fine, if you think it's fake, then experience it for yourself, Izuku replied confidently. Katsuki started, but was cut off. Zawarudo, Ovaheben. Izuku shouted as a powerful presence materialized beside him. Time has stopped. 9 seconds left. Izuku walks over to Bakugo. 8 seconds left. The world strikes Bakugo's head. 7 seconds left. Izuku and his stand throw lightning-infused knives around Bakugo. 6 seconds left. The world causes Katsuki to stumble, his knees buckling. 5 seconds left. The world forces Katsuki's arms to twist unnaturally. 4 seconds left. Izuku decides to resume time. Time has resumed. Katsuki is hit by the lightning-infused knives, electricity coursing through him as he cries out in pain, his body clearly struggling. Katsuki screams as Izuku stands over him, his expression unreadable. The class watches in horror as their classmate suffers before their eyes. The entire class, including Todoroki, rushes to the other side of the room. Eraserhead wakes up, noticing Izuku standing over a nearly incapacitated Bakugo. I was asleep for 10 minutes and this is what happens? Aizawa exclaims. You're slow and useless, Katsuki Bakugo, Izuku remarks coolly. Izuku brings out the world, summoning a wormhole in his stand's hand. The world touches Bakugo, erasing the injuries as if they had never happened. Izuku returns to his seat, acting as if nothing occurred. You monster! Uraraka shouts, rushing at him with tears in her eyes and a fierce determination. Ha! Uraraka gasps as she sees Izuku vanish from where he stood. Too slow, Izuku replies, swiftly incapacitating her with a precise motion. He returns to his seat as Bakugo regains consciousness. Return as if everything is normal, Izuku commands as the world appears with wormholes in its hand. Suddenly, everyone is back where they were before Izuku demonstrated his powers. What the hell is happening? The class thinks in unison. Tsuyu shakily writes down Izuku's ability on the whiteboard. The lunch bell rings, and everyone rushes out of the classroom. Yar days, Izuku mutters. Chapter end. The day of the UA Sports Festival has arrived. Every single student has trained rigorously for this day. The cheers of the crowd fill the stadium as each class walks out of their respective doors. The class cheers for Class 1A, ignoring the other classes. The other classes think as Class 1A waves at their fans. Today the sports festival begins. The events for this day will be decided by spinning this wheel. Midnight announces, holding the microphone as the boys cheer wildly. Midnight spins the wheel, and the following events are chosen. Obstacle course race. Team free for all. 1v1s. The list is displayed on the big screen as Present Mike instructs the students to gather at the starting line. The students follow Present Mix order, preparing at the starting line. Go! Present Mike yells, the sound of guns signaling the start of the race. Ziwarudo, Ovaheben. Izuku shouts as soon as he hears the gunshots. Time has stopped. 9 seconds left. Izuku uses the world to leap an incredible distance of 800 meters. 8 seconds left. Izuku repeats his action. 7 seconds left. Izuku repeats his action. 6 seconds left. Izuku repeats his action. 5 seconds left. Izuku passes the 0 pointers. 4 seconds left. Izuku continues using the world to jump great distances. 3 seconds left. Izuku repeats his action. 2 seconds left. Izuku repeats his action. 1 second left. Izuku repeats his action. Sir. Time resumes. Whoa, what is this? Izuku Midoriya has teleported an incredible amount of distance. He is already half a kilometer to the canyon stage. Is his quirk teleportation? Present Mike exclaims through the microphone in the observation room. Aizawa hears Present Mike's loud narration and hisses at the thought of Izuku's ability. It's not teleportation, Aizawa stutters, fear evident in his voice. What is this? Mr. Aizawa is scared. Present Mike jokes. Why? If you knew his real ability, you'd be equally terrified, Aizawa replies. What? This is the first time I've ever seen you scared. What's so scary about this ability? Present Mike asks, concern creeping into his tone as the crowd grows curious. His ability is to stop time, Aizawa says, looking down as Present Mike and the others stare in fear. That's impossible. Multiple quirk scientists have tested the theory of controlling time and concluded that it is just impossible. Present Mike exclaims, falling into his seat in disbelief. He proved it to us. I won't tell you how, Aizawa replies, struggling with his mental state as the rest of Class 1A freezes at his revelation. Show! Present Mike calls out, trying to comfort Aizawa. Meanwhile, the crowd stares in disbelief as the cameras show Izuku has passed the canyon stage. They had to reveal my ability to the world. Izuku mentally facepalms. At least I just have to pass the stage of soil. Izuku thinks, stopping in his tracks as he looks back. I cannot take any chances. Bakugo and Todoroki are catching up quickly, Izuku realizes, pulling out the world. Ziwarudo, Ovaheben. Izuku shouts loudly. Time has stopped. 9 seconds left. Izuku runs over the field of soil. 8 seconds left. Izuku runs. 7 seconds left. Izuku runs. 6 seconds left. Izuku reaches the end of the field of soil as he keeps running towards the finish line. 5 seconds left. 100 meters until the finish line. 4 seconds left. 80 meters until the finish line. 3 seconds left. 60 meters until the finish line. 2 seconds left. 40 meters until the finish line. 1 second left. 20 meters left. Sir. Time has resumed. Izuku keeps running at full speed as he hears explosions behind him. Bakugo, the greenette thought. No, he's too far for even his explosions to be heard, Izuku thought as he crosses the finish line. Izuku Midoriya wins. Present Mike yells as Izuku looks back. Landmines? Izuku internally screamed as he looked at the land behind him, which was lightly smoking and had soil scattered around. Yar days, this school is not fit for teaching, Izuku thought as he walks to the break rooms. Chapter end. Now that you have all taken your rest, I will now explain the second event, the team free for all. Midnight yelled as the students and the crowd cheered. You must form a team of 4, and 3 students must carry the 4th student on their backs. The student at the top will have a headband. The more headbands you get, the more points you receive. Midnight continued. The place you got on the obstacle race will affect your headband's value in this round. Therefore, the one in 4th place gets 400 points, the 3rd gets 800, the 2nd gets 1200, and the 1st place gets a whopping 1,000,000 points. Midnight announced. The entire group of students stared at Izuku, except for Class 1A, since they had seen what Izuku could do. The crowd whispered among themselves, mostly speculating that Izuku would lose since he was already a huge target. Izuku walked up to the stage to Midnight as the entirety of the stadium looked at him. Midnight, I do not do well in groups. May I go by myself? Izuku asked. Are you sure? It's going to be a lot harder, Midnight replied. Cocky attitude, the classes thought. You heard what Aizawa said about my ability, right? Izuku replied while glaring at Midnight. Suddenly, everyone in the stadium remembered Aizawa's announcement about Izuku's ability. Chills ran down their spines as Izuku grinned. Why yeah, I allow you to go alone, Midnight answered. Great. Izuku replied enthusiastically. A few minutes passed, and everyone except Izuku had already grouped together. Now that all of you are ready, let the games begin. Midnight announced as gunshots were heard again. Every student rushed at Izuku, each of them reaching for the 1 million headband. Ziwarudo, Ovaheben! Izuku exclaimed just before the student's hands could touch him. Time has stopped. 9 seconds left. Izuku runs around, first collecting the headbands that had more points than the others. 8 seconds left. Izuku continues to gather more headbands. 7 seconds left. Keeps on collecting headbands. 6 seconds left. Izuku adds more headbands to his collection. 5 seconds left. He grabs the last set of headbands. 4 seconds left. Izuku uses his stand to leap to the other side of the field. 3 seconds left. Izuku throws knives infused with electricity around him. 2 seconds left. He decides to resume time. Time resumes. Izuku seemingly teleports to the other side of the field as the knives fall, creating an electric field around him. Every student sees where Izuku is and starts to run toward him until their movement is interrupted by present mix commentary. What is this? Izuku Midoriya has collected every headband. Present Mike yells. The students at the top of each group start tapping their necks. It's gone, each one thinks. Your efforts are futile. Izuku shouts from the far end of the field, grinning. Deku, UBI. Katsuki yells but is cut off. We can't, it's no use, he'll just stop time again, Ida says from beside Todoroki's team, who are near Bakugo's group. Everyone runs at Izuku except for Class 1A. Huh, those Class 1A cowards, Monoma from Class 1B says as his team rushes toward Izuku. Suddenly, one team steps into Izuku's range and is immediately electrified, falling to the ground unconscious. What? Another student yells. Someone throws a stick on the ground, and white and yellow lightning surrounds it. It's the ground, it's electrified, another student shouts. I got this, a girl with vine-like hair exclaims. She creates a bridge of vines over the electric ground to Izuku's area. Gio, the vine-haired girl shouts. The students begin crossing the bridge. Yar yar, Izuku says as he brings out the world. The world. Rewrite reality, make them quirkless. Izuku calls out as the world envelopes his hand in wormholes. The world touches any student who approaches Izuku, causing their quirks to vanish. As the students try to use their quirks to attack Izuku, they fail miserably. Useless. Izuku yells. Without quirks, most of you are useless, he continues as everyone stares at the ground in disbelief. Eraserhead, is this your quirks doing? Present Mike yells, leaning over the table for a closer look at the field. No, this is Izuku's doing, it's one of his abilities, but he never explained it, Eraserhead replies. One of multiple abilities. Present Mike screams. This kid, Present Mike thinks. Chapter end. Every student lies on the ground, panting, as Midnight announces that the second round has ended. The team free for all has ended with Izuku Midoriya having a total of 1,002,780 points. Midnight yells. Since the other students did not gain any points, you will be judged on how you performed during this round by Present Mike, Eraserhead, and me. Depending on our judgment, you may or may not enter the final round. Midnight continues as she walks off the stage toward the observation room. Time skip. The three teachers have finished judging who may enter the final round. The students are the same as in canon, as the big screen displays who is qualified for the third round. In this round, students will be fighting each other. The last student standing will be the winner, Midnight exclaims. If a student is knocked out or sent out of bounds of the arena, he or she automatically loses. Midnight continues. The first match for this event will be Izuku Midoriya versus Hitoshi Shinso, Midnight announces again. Izuku walks onto the battle arena as he sees Shinso approach from the other side of the battleground. Begin, Midnight declares. Must be nice to be born with an overpowered quirk, Shinso says. Why is he talking? Aren't we supposed to be fighting? Izuku thinks. Having a powerful ability, I bet everyone puts you on a pedestal and praises you like a king, Shinso continues. Izuku remains silent. Gore, Shinso thinks, growing frustrated. YW, Shinso starts to say before he is cut off. Ziwarudo, Ovaheben. Izuku shouts. Time has stopped. 9 seconds left. Izuku uses his stand to leap toward Shinso. 8 seconds left. 7 seconds left. Annoying. 6 seconds left. Izuku monologues, successfully wasting 3 seconds of stop time. 5 seconds left. Izuku uses the world to punch Shinso. 4 seconds left. He punches with the world to ensure that Shinso is flung out of bounds when time resumes. 3 seconds left. Izuku walks forward, dragging Shinso along with him. 2 seconds left. Izuku continues walking with Shinso. 1 second left. He places Shinso 10 centimeters away from the border. Time resumes. Shinso is flung 20 meters away from the battle arena, landing on the ground unconscious. Your quirk's activation trigger is too obvious, Izuku says as he approaches the unconscious boy. Izuku Midoriya wins the first match. Someone get recovery girl, Midnight yells, whispering the last part. The world, rewrite reality, erase his injuries, Izuku commands as the world appears with wormholes on its hand. The world touches Shinso, and the wounds disappear, though the purple-haired boy remains unconscious. Izuku walks away and heads to the break room until he is interrupted by Endeavor. Boy, Endeavor says in a deep, menacing tone. Yes. Izuku replies. You seem powerful. Since you are matched with my son, make him use his left side, Endeavor instructs. He'll be in trouble if he doesn't, Izuku responds. I like your attitude. I'll save you a spot in my agency, Endeavor says as he walks away. Izuku continues toward the break room until he is interrupted again. Young Midoriya, a loud voice calls from behind him. Why him? Izuku mentally curses. Yes. Sir? Izuku asks. I want you to inherit my Q. All Might begins to say. Time has stopped. 9 seconds left. Izuku jumps onto the top of the ice. 8 seconds left. Izuku and the world launch 20 lightning-infused knives toward Todoroki. 7 seconds left. Izuku and his stand send out another 20 lightning-infused knives. 6 seconds left. Izuku uses his stand to leap toward Todoroki. 5 seconds left. Izuku commands the world to reshape the ground beneath Todoroki into restraints. 4 seconds left. Izuku creates a circle of lightning-infused knives around Todoroki. 3 seconds left. Izuku delivers a swift slap to Todoroki's face. 2 seconds left. Izuku uses the world to transform more of the ground into chains, binding Todoroki's hands. 1 second left. Izuku poses triumphantly behind Todoroki. Sir, time has resumed. Todoroki is jolted by the electric knives surrounding him, momentarily stunning him. More knives fly toward him as he remains trapped by the restraints, while the impact of the slap reverberates in. The knives strike, sending waves of electricity coursing through Todoroki, causing his heartbeat to slow significantly. You're weak, Izuku remarks, annoyance creeping into his voice as he uses the world to mend Todoroki's injuries and remove the restraints. He strides into the stadium, making his way toward the stairs. Midoriya wins. Midnight announces, and the crowd erupts in cheers, though the sound is somewhat muffled by the walls. Izuku ascends the stairs and finds a seat next to the Baku squad. Yo Midoriya, that was an awesome fight. Eijiro Kirishima shouts from the far side. Thank you for the compliment, Izuku replies. It wasn't really much of a fight, Denki adds. Yeah, the Baku squad agrees, their tone a bit downcast. Either way, I'll seize any chance to be at the top, Izuku responds. I suppose, Mina says. Calling Bakugo Katsuki and Achiko Uraraka, please come up to the arena. Midnight calls out. Hey Bakugo, it's your turn. Mina exclaims excitedly. Yeah, I know, extra, Bakugo replies, standing up and making his way to the stairs. After a brief wait, the contestants arrive at the arena, and the fight continues as expected. Bakugo Katsuki wins. Midnight announces, met with boos from the crowd for Bakugo's rough tactics. Alright folks, we'll take a 1-hour lunch break before we resume. Present Mike declares from the observation room. The crowd sighs as they begin to exit the stadium, heading toward the food stalls set up outside. Hey Midobro, why don't you have lunch with us? Kaminari suggests to Izuku. I guess I have nothing else to do, Izuku replies, joining them. They exit the stadium, and Kirishima claims a table for the group while Mina heads off to buy their lunch. The group sits in silence, waiting for Mina to return. After a few minutes, Mina arrives with 6 bowls of katsudon and 6 drinks. They enjoy their lunch peacefully until Present Mike calls Katsuki Bakugo and Izuku Midoriya to come up to the arena. The entire crowd leaves their lunches on the tables and rushes back into the stadium, taking their seats. Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo walk onto the arena as the starting gun fires loudly. Go! Present Mike shouts as the 2 students charge at each other. Bakugo throws a right hook at Izuku, but the world intervenes, blocking the blow. Bakugo yells in frustration as Izuku counters, freezing Bakugo's left arm. Bakugo cries out, falling to his knees, tears streaming down his face. I honestly thought you would put up more of a challenge, Izuku remarks, delivering a swift kick that sends Bakugo sprawling backward. The crowd gasps at Izuku's actions. Izuku summons the world, one hand enveloped in energy as the other remains poised. Shiny Eye! Izuku commands as the world unleashes a flurry of strikes, healing Bakugo's injuries only for him to be struck again. This cycle continues for 10 minutes, with Izuku unaware that Bakugo had already been knocked out 9.5 minutes ago. After enjoying himself, Izuku fully heals Bakugo before stepping off the arena. Izuku Midoriya is the winner of the sports festival. Midnight announces, and the crowd erupts in cheers. We will now move on to the awarding ceremony. Midnight continues, calling the names of the winners to step onto the podiums. Shoto Todoroki, she announces, and Todoroki steps onto the lowest pedestal. Katsuki Bakugo, she calls, and UA staff carry the unconscious Bakugo to the second-place pedestal. And lastly, Izuku Midoriya, Midnight says as Izuku steps onto the first-place pedestal, a smirk on his face. And now for your medals, which will be presented by. Midnight pauses dramatically. I am here, a booming voice echoes through the doors. Not this guy again, Izuku thinks. All Might. The crowd cheers, thrilled to see the #1 hero. All Might approaches Midnight, taking the bronze, silver, and gold medals. He places the medals around the winners' necks, congratulating them warmly. This was fairly easy, I want to go back to sleep, Izuku thinks as Midnight announces the end of the UA Sports Festival. The crowd, along with the students, slowly exits the stadium as Izuku uses his stand to leap over the walls. He then heads toward Jotaro's apartment. Time skip. It has been a week since the sports festival, and the week-long break that UA granted its students has come to an end. Izuku rises from his bed and changes into his uniform. He takes the elevator down to the first floor, exits the building, and walks to school. After some time, he arrives at the classroom, followed shortly by Aizawa, who enters a few minutes later, causing the class to quiet down. As you know, the UA Sports Festival serves as a way for pro heroes to recruit potential heroes, Aizawa explains as the class whispers among themselves. Quiet down. Aizawa barks, and the class falls silent. Under your desks is a piece of paper listing the agencies that have offered you an internship, Aizawa continues as the students look beneath their desks, scanning the list of agencies. That's all, do whatever you want, just don't be too loud, Aizawa says, slipping into his yellow sleeping bag. Students bustle about, checking which agencies other students were invited to. Izuku pays little attention to the commotion, focusing on his paper. To his surprise, almost every agency in Japan is listed for him. Daemon, Izuku thinks as he hears footsteps approaching him. Izuku, where are you going to intern? A voice called from behind the greenette. Oh, Giorno. Izuku turned to see his friend. There are so many options, I can't decide. How about you? Have you made a choice? Izuku continued. Yeah. It's this one, Giorno said, pointing at an agency on his paper. The Steel Ball Agency? I haven't heard of that one. Why did you choose it? Izuku asked. It caught my eye, and now I'm interested, Giorno replied. Very well, I shall go along with you, Izuku said. How do you know you were invited too? Giorno asked. Izuku pointed to a name on his paper. I was scanning through my paper while you were talking, Izuku explained. Oh, okay, goodbye then, Giorno said, waving as he returned to his seat. Hopefully, this will give me a challenge, Izuku thought as he rested his head on his desk. Izuku stood in front of a tall white building at the edge of the city, alongside Giorno. We finally made it. Walking. Giorno panted, having walked roughly 30 kilometers from the city. Yeah, sure, Izuku replied. Calmly. During the walk to the agency, whenever Izuku felt tired, he used the world to rewrite reality for himself, causing his fatigue to vanish. Help, Giorno managed to say before collapsing. Izuku stared at Giorno in disappointment. The world, rewrite reality, Izuku said as the world emerged, its hands enveloped in swirling energy. The world touched Giorno, replenishing his lost energy. Why didn't you do that earlier? Giorno groaned as he lay on the ground. I was busy doing that for myself, Izuku replied, picking up Giorno and walking through the agency's doors. Izuku entered to find an empty reception room. Hello. Izuku called out as Giorno finally stood upright. Silence met them. Did we take a wrong turn somewhere? Giorno asked, pulling out a map and scanning it. Not likely, Izuku replied. And how do you know? Giorno asked, a questioning look on his face. The receptionist's table literally has a sign saying, Steel Ball Agency, Izuku answered. Giorno looked at the receptionist's table and face-bombed at his oversight. Izuku and Giorno took a seat on a nearby couch. Yes, Yiro, especially that man in the bunny costume. Izuku and Giorno heard a voice from the other room. Two figures walked into the room where Izuku and Giorno were seated. The two figures stood there in shock as one whispered to the other, Hey Johnny, you said they would arrive 20 minutes later. I didn't expect them to get past the spinning nails so easily, the other replied. One figure face-bombed while the other rubbed his neck. So, would you mind introducing yourselves? Giorno asked the two figures. Oh right, said the second figure. I am Johnny Joe Star, he introduced himself. And I am Yiro Zeppeli, the first figure added cheerfully. Interesting, Izuku said as he carefully examined the two. So, why did you invite us to your agency? Giorno asked. Well, you're the only two I've seen with abilities similar to mine, Johnny replied. You mean a stand? Giorno asked. What? Johnny replied, while Izuku and Yiro leaned back to observe. This, Giorno said, summoning golden experience. Oh, so that's called a stand, Johnny remarked, inspecting golden experience closely. Well, you said you had a similar ability, show us yours, Izuku encouraged. Alright, Tusk! Johnny shouted, summoning his stand. My ability allows me to shoot my nails with high-speed rotation. When they hit an object, they create wormholes, so if I miss, I can move the wormhole to the target. I can also enter the wormholes, Johnny explained. That seems like an interesting ability, Izuku said. Well yeah. Now tell me yours, Johnny prompted. Giorno goes first, Izuku said, leaning back in his chair. Fine, Giorno replied. My stand, golden experience, can create life, and I can heal myself and others, Giorno explained as Johnny took notes. How about you? Johnny asked, turning to Izuku. The world, over heaven, Izuku said, and the world appeared beside him. My stand has 3 abilities. The first is summoning lightning and imbuing objects with it. The lightning is white and yellow. My second ability is rewriting reality, I can change it to my preference. Lastly, my most useful ability. Izuku said. What? Like rewriting reality isn't already useful? Yuro and Johnny thought. My last ability is to stop time, Izuku stated calmly. Nanny! Johnny thought. The same ability as Diego's? Both Johnny and Yuro thought. Well, that's an interesting ability, Johnny said to Izuku. Yeah, it's very convenient, Izuku replied. Well, anyway, what are we supposed to do? Giorno asked. Well, as Johnny and I planned, we were going to take you both to training, Yuro answered. Oh, we forgot about you. What's your quirk? Izuku asked. Why you forgot about me? Yuro thought, imaginary tears forming in his eyes. My quirk is to spin things at very high speeds, and unlike you guys, I have no stand, Yuro explained. Oh, I see, Giorno said. Giorno and Izuku trained with Johnny and Yuro for the entire week they could intern with them. On their last day, Johnny, Yuro, Giorno, and Izuku went on a trip to the desert in search of a villain hideout. As the four friends walked through the desert, Giorno tripped over a brown stick. Wah! Giorno shouted as Golden Experience quickly emerged to catch him. Oi Giorno, are you okay? Izuku asked. Why, I'm fine, Giorno replied, standing up fully. Hey Giorno, is it normal for your stand's foot to crumble away? Yuro asked, pointing to the foot of Giorno's stand, which was slowly disintegrating. Is this the work of an enemy stand user? Johnny exclaimed as the group looked around, only to see an empty desert, devoid of life. Not only is Golden Experience crumbling away, but the effects are also affecting Giorno. This is getting quite out of hand, Izuku says as he instructs the world to rewrite Giorno's injuries, only for the hand to phase through Giorno's leg. What? Izuku says, confused, while Golden Experience has crumbled all the way to its waist. Yuro, Johnny, and Izuku turn to look for a sign of a stand or a stand user, or anything that caused Golden Experience to disintegrate. They look back to check on Giorno, only to see a husk of Golden Experience. Giorno no! Yuro yells as he runs to the husk and examines it, joined by Izuku and Johnny. So this is what caused this trouble, said a voice from behind the trio. Who goes there? Johnny yells. Relax, it's me, the voice replies as the trio takes a good look at the figure. Giorno. Yuro asks. Yeah, when you were looking for a stand user, I was looking for the stick I tripped on, Giorno answers. Why would you look for a stick? Izuku asks. If arrows could give us stands, then surely there should be more magical items, right? Giorno responds as he picks up the stick he tripped on. With a closer look, it seems as though it's an arrow, Giorno says as the three rush over to see what Giorno is holding. Yes, but it wasn't the arrow that gave me a stand, Izuku says as he examines the arrow closely. I'll ask Jotaro, Giorno says, taking a picture of the arrow. He sends the picture to Jotaro, who replies in just 2 seconds. That was fast. It usually takes him 30 minutes to respond, and most of the time he wouldn't, Giorno says, surprised as he reads Jotaro's reply. Next. Jotaro, where did you find that arrow? Giorno, I tripped on it. Jotaro, you what? Giorno, yes. Jotaro. Giorno. Jotaro, I've been looking for that arrow for 4 years and you found it. By tripping on it. Giorno, yes. Giorno, so what does it do? Jotaro, according to one of my friends, it is supposed to give your stand more power if you are worthy. Giorno, oh cool. Jotaro, did you get stabbed by it? Giorno, yes. Jotaro. Jotaro's mind, I was supposed to get it, am I not worthy? Jotaro, anyway, it's called a Requiem arrow. Giorno, cool name, who named it? Jotaro, I did. Giorno, oh, I thought you would name it Stand Arrow V.2. Jotaro, why would anyone name something like that? Giorno, you? You name your dolphins, Dolphin 3. Jotaro, you have been blocked by this number. Giorno, oops. So what did he say? Izuku asks. It's called a Requiem arrow, and it gives worthy stand users a more powerful stand, Giorno replies. ONI, Izuku is cut off when a knife is embedded into his chest. Izuku. Giorno yells as he brings out golden experience to heal him. Golden experience? Giorno shouts, but a different-looking stand appears. What? That's not my stand. Giorno exclaimed as the stand ignored him and approached Izuku. The stand touched Izuku, and he felt a warm sensation as his stab wound began to heal. Its ability is similar. It's possible it's the effect of the arrow, Johnny remarked as Izuku stood up, groaning. That hurt like crazy, Izuku muttered. Izuku barely dodged another knife that was thrown at him. What the heck? He said, scanning the area for the thrower. Not seeing anyone, Izuku unleashed lightning-infused knives in every direction. What the Yero exclaimed as they all noticed that every single knife was suspended in midair. Izuku approached one of the hanging knives and pulled it out. Liquid began pouring from the spot where the knife had been. What in the world? Why is water flowing out of thin air? Izuku shouted as the water gushed out more rapidly. Thinking quickly, he called out, "The world, rewrite reality, let us breathe underwater." The world emerged and touched everyone with its wormhole hands. The water gradually filled the area until there was no air left. As the water took shape of its container, everyone realized they were trapped in a box. Is this a stand ability? Giorno wondered. He walked to the edge of the box, expecting to see the desert on the other side, but was met with trees and plants instead. Giorno! Johnny! Yero! He shouted as he noticed a hole had been punched through one of the walls of the box. A few seconds ago. Izuku saw Giorno move toward the edge of the glass. That's right, I have to at least look for an escape route, he thought as he swam to the top of the box, inspecting it thoroughly. No air holes at all, Izuku noted as he began to drift further from the surface. What? Who's pulling me down? He wondered, glancing below him. No, I'm not being pulled down. The water is being drained, Izuku realized as he stood upright on the glass floor, examining the room. It looked just like before with white walls and a white ceiling. The only difference was the glass floor and the clouds beneath him. Clouds? Izuku thought. He summoned the world and punched a hole through one of the walls. A strong breeze rushed in, only to stop moments later. Peering through the hole, he confirmed his suspicion. He was suspended above the clouds. A few seconds ago. I can't waste time, I need to find an exit, Johnny thought as he scanned the bottom of the box, hoping for a trapdoor. He swam along the bottom until he found a drain hidden in the corner. The drain began to form a whirlpool, and Johnny realized it was draining the water. No. If the water is gone, I won't be able to search the box properly. Johnny thought as he quickly removed his shirt and placed it over the drain, successfully blocking the flow. Feeling a bit relieved, he scanned his surroundings, but it was clear he was in a glass container surrounded by darkness. The only thing that wasn't glass was the floor beneath him. Suddenly, a hole broke open in one of the walls, and water began to leak out. No. My efforts are in vain, Johnny thought as the remaining water flowed out of the box. The water was already quite shallow due to the hole, making it difficult for Johnny to inspect the box thoroughly. A few seconds ago. Why are they looking for an exit? If there was one, the water would have already flowed out. Izuku is the only reasonable one, searching for an exit on the ceiling, Yero thought as he watched his friends search for a way out. I guess I'll take a nap. They'll wake me up if they find an exit, Yero decided as he closed his eyes. He awoke to find himself encased in a white room with a hole in one of the walls. What? Where am I? And where is everyone? Yero wondered as he stood up. He searched around the room, and aside from a piano, he was alone. After confirming he was indeed above the clouds, Izuku sat in the corner of the box, contemplating his next move. His first priority was to reach Giorno, knowing his stand wouldn't be much help in this situation. Searching the box, Izuku found a drain in the far corner. I can't guarantee there's a pipe under here, but it's worth a try, he thought as he used the world to punch the drain open. To his surprise, a small pipe was revealed, leading to an unknown area. Does the enemy not know about our abilities? If Johnny found this, he could enter through a wormhole, Izuku pondered. No time to waste, he said as he used the world to rewrite reality and make himself smaller. Izuku entered the pipe, which only led one way, and he couldn't see the end. As he walked through the pipe, he reached an intersection. One pipe went left, another went right, and a third led directly down. Left or right? Izuku thought, ultimately deciding to go left after a moment of consideration. As he walked, he narrowly dodged a spinning nail that shot toward him. Johnny! Izuku immediately thought upon seeing the spinning nail. Izuku sprinted through the pipe, skillfully dodging spinning nails, determined to find his friend. A few minutes earlier. When's the sun coming up? Johnny wondered as he stared into the endless void beyond his glass wall. Surely it's not outer space. If it were, I'd be out through that hole in the wall, he thought, glancing at the newly appeared opening. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden loud noise. What? Johnny exclaimed, rushing toward the sound to discover a broken drain. The drain? He pondered, inspecting it closely. The only one who could do this is someone with a strength-enhancing quirk or a stand. Deciding to take action, Johnny threw a few nails through the pipe beneath him. This could be fun, he thought, when suddenly he heard a faint voice calling out to him. Johnny, the small voice yelled. Johnny, I'm coming, the voice called again. Izuku, Johnny realized. A few seconds ago. I'm almost at the end. Izuku thought as he expertly avoided the spinning nails. Johnny! Izuku shouted. Johnny, I'm coming, he called out, hoping his friend would feel reassured if he was in trouble. Izuku reached the end of the drain and popped out of the pipe, meeting Johnny's curious gaze. Izuku? Johnny asked, surprised. Yup, it's me, Izuku replied, using the world to return to his normal size. Where were you? Johnny asked, noticing the confusion on Izuku's face. Where were you? I turned back to look for an exit, and suddenly you and the others disappeared. Izuku exclaimed. Same here, Johnny replied. And why is your box different? Mine was above the clouds, and yours is in a black abyss. I don't know, but it's clearly the work of a stand, Johnny answered. Yeah, we're lucky some pipes connect the rooms, Izuku said. Rooms? There are more. Johnny asked, intrigued. Yeah, there were 2 other tunnels besides yours, one going right and one going left, Izuku explained. Then let's get going, we can't let the enemy reach the others, Johnny urged. Agreed. The world, rewrite reality, make us smaller, Izuku commanded as the world appeared, its wormhole hands touching both him and Johnny. In another area. I underestimated the green-haired kid, a voice said in a dark room. Yes, your calculations were off, President. Valentine, another voice finished. Don't underestimate me, it's difficult to assess the full potential of the ability to rewrite reality, President Valentine replied. I suppose, the accomplice conceded as the president turned to the monitors. Let us observe their next move, Valentine said, and his accomplice nodded in agreement. Back with Izuku. This is the intersection? Johnny asked, peering down below. Yeah, it's a one-way trip down that pipe, Izuku replied, leaping to the opposite pipe they had just been on. Johnny, hurry up. Izuku urged as he began to run. Yeah, Johnny replied lazily as the 2 stand users raced through the pipes until they reached another broken drain. Izuku and Johnny hopped out of the pipe, and the world returned them to their normal size. Johnny? A voice called out. Yiro! Johnny exclaimed, running toward Yiro with a smile. I was expecting Giorno, Izuku thought, rolling his eyes. How did you get here? Yiro asked, and Johnny pointed at Izuku. Oh! Yiro said, realizing. Yeah. Anything is possible with Izuku's stand, Johnny sighed. All right, bonding time over, follow me. Izuku declared as he used the world to shrink the group. Follow me, Izuku said, jumping down into the drainage with Yiro and Johnny. Time skip. Silence enveloped the 3 friends. We're not really going down that pipe, right, Izuku? Johnny asked, looking at the long downward pipe in the middle of the intersection. We've explored every other option, Izuku replied, as Yiro stepped forward. Relax, Johnny, it's just a giant slide, Yiro reassured him, jumping down. Be like Yiro, Johnny, Izuku encouraged, following after Yiro. With a sigh, Johnny had no choice but to follow the 2 daredevils. As they fell, Izuku spotted a pipe opening on the wall of the pipe they were in. Ziwarudo, Ovaheben! Izuku shouted. Oh, All Might stared at the empty space where Izuku used to be. Old hag, I don't want your dirty quirk, Izuku muttered as he finally reached the break room. Finally, Izuku said as he walked to a bench and closed his eyes for a moment. Izuku Midoriya, calling Izuku Midoriya. Midnight yelled from the microphone. Izuku slowly woke up and checked his watch. Oh no, I'm late, he thought. Izuku dashed through the hallways of the stadium until he reached the arena. I'm here, he shouted, startling Midnight. All right, let the battle begin. Midnight yelled, signaling the two students to start their fight. Todoroki unleashed a blast of ice, but before it could fully form into a glacier. Ziwarudo, Ovaheben! Izuku yelled. Time has stopped. 9 seconds left. Izuku grabbed Johnny and Giro's shirts and tossed them toward the ledge. 8 seconds left. Izuku floated to the ledge. 7 seconds left. He used the world to create a soft landing for Johnny and Giro, ensuring they wouldn't be hurt. 6 seconds left. Izuku scanned the area for any traps. 5 seconds left. When he deemed it safe, he resumed time. Time has resumed. Johnny and Giro landed softly on the makeshift mattress. Did you stop time? Johnny asked, surprised. Yeah, I noticed a pipe opening while we were falling, Izuku replied. I see Johnny was cut off. Nyahoho, what a comfy mattress. Giro exclaimed as he laid down and enjoyed the softness. Why didn't you make this for my bed in the agency? Giro shouted. You never asked for a better mattress, Izuku replied, while Johnny facepalmed. Anyways, Izuku, have you checked for any traps? Johnny asked. Izuku gave him a thumbs up. I see. Well, there's only one way to go, let's hurry, Johnny said as the three walked through the pipe. Not long after, they spotted a drain that resembled their rooms. This must be Giorno's box, Izuku said. Maybe, but it could also belong to someone else, Johnny suggested. And how do you know? Giro asked with a curious expression. Does the fact that he kidnapped us not make him a kidnapper? Izuku replied, slightly annoyed. Oh, Giro said quietly as Johnny and Izuku climbed up the drain. Joe what? Izuku shouted as the world returned Johnny's, Giro's, and his sizes to normal. Who are you? Izuku asked, looking at the man who clearly wasn't Giorno. I knew it, and he had to embarrass himself by yelling out Giorno, Johnny thought. This is a cozy box. It's very space-themed, Giro thought as he scanned the room. Answer my question, Izuku said again. Tell me, the unknown figure replied. Do you believe in gravity? Do you believe in gravity? The man asked. What the hell? Johnny said, looking confused. Let's get out. He's just another weirdo, Giro said. Agreed, the other two said in unison as they started to walk back to the drain. Wait, the man yelled. Izuku asked. Bring me along with you, I've been here for 10 months. I think, the man said. Suppose we bring you with us, what do you have to offer? Izuku asked. My services. Yes, my services. The man quickly replied. And how are your services supposed to be useful to us? Izuku inquired. Well, I know you all are stand users, so I shall tell you the ability of my stand, White Snake, the man explained. Continue, Izuku said, intrigued. My stand has the ability to take a person's will and memory in the form of discs. If the person is a stand user, I may also take their stand in place of their willpower, the man said. That's great and all, but you never told us your name, Johnny pointed out, scrutinizing the man. Sorry for forgetting to introduce myself. My name is Enrico Pucci, the man said. That ability could prove useful to us. I suppose you may come along, Izuku said. Pucci thought as Izuku shrank everyone until they were small enough to fit into the drain. Time skip. After a while of sliding down the seemingly endless pipe, Pucci decided to make small talk. So, if you don't mind, would you tell me about your stands? Enrico asked as Izuku looked at Giro and Johnny. The two nodded back at Izuku. Johnny can shoot out his nails, while Giro is standless, and I, Izuku, have the stand to rule the world. Izuku declared, shouting the last part. So vague, Pucci thought, sweat beading on his forehead. So, mind being a bit more specific about your ability? Pucci asked Izuku. I can stop time and rewrite reality, Izuku replied bluntly. He can rule the world. Pucci screamed internally in joy as he found a person to devote his life to. Shortly after, the four landed at the bottom of the pipe, unharmed since they were tiny. Finally, that took 30 minutes, Jiro said, rolling his eyes. The four began to examine their surroundings. The only direction they could go was into the sewers connected to the pipe. We're not really going there, right? Jiro asked in disgust. You know, Izuku quickly replied as he burst a hole through the pipe walls. The four peered into a dark room through the hole Izuku made. It was filled with dozens of computers and large boxes full of circuit boards. Menacing, Johnny said as they heard a voice. Mr. President, they made it. What do we do? The voice said. No worries, I expected this to happen and have already planned a counterattack, said another voice. Get them, the voice shouted as a figure pulled out the pipe the group was in. Oh no, Izuku thought. Zawarudo, Ovaheben. Time has stopped. 9 seconds left. Izuku drags everyone out of the pipe. 8 seconds left. The group makes contact with the floor. 7 seconds left. Izuku touches Jiro, Johnny, and Pucci with the world's hands. 6 seconds left. Izuku uses the world to return himself to normal. 5 seconds left. Izuku confronts the man who attempted to get into the pipe, delivering a series of swift strikes. 4 seconds left. Izuku resumes time. Time continues. In the blink of an eye, Pucci, Jiro, and Johnny return to their normal state, while the man who tried to kidnap them is left incapacitated. As expected, said a voice. If my duplicate pressured you into stopping time, then it would be easy to eliminate you, the voice continues. Prepare to meet your fate, brought to you by me, President Valentine, the voice declares as he fully reveals himself to the four. Chapter end. This story doesn't have a definitive conclusion since Izuku is already incredibly powerful, making it difficult to continue. I initially planned for the final confrontation to be between Valentine and Izuku, with everyone else out of the picture. However, the number of ways Izuku could triumph makes it hard to develop a coherent narrative, as he could easily overcome any obstacle. This may or may not be the true ending, as I might revisit this story in the future, depending on my inspiration. I apologize if you waited a month for another part, only for the story to conclude like this. If you're disappointed, I understand, emotions can be complex. Anyway, take care. Enjoy a cookie or a slice of pizza. Chapter end.